Yo Atlas speaking and welcome to part 8 of What If I Was Reincarnated in the One Piece world as a Skypiean. Let the tale begin. Chapter 176, Aftermath. BZ's Rumble. With a bolt of lightning, a massive 200-meter-long large ship appeared in the White Sea, and after that, with 10 more bolts of lightning, 10 more ships appeared at the same spot. All this happened in the gray world of the Door Dimension. After that, the figure of Amon teleported in the air as he looked down on the frozen people. It actually worked, Amon commented as he observed the scene below. The sea current was still there, not much different from the outside world. It was when Kiyu, the sword, talked. Master, this would be extremely useful in the future. If there is a need for Robin, Riki, or someone else far from here, you can teleport with them after inserting them into this world. Unlike before, you can work as a mass teleportation device. Hearing the sword's statement, Amon agreed. That's true. It's also good to hide or imprison people. The moral of the story, this was a good power-up. Now, while the sword can still be used as a weapon, it can also be used as a key to this empty dimension, a universe-sized storage bank. Everything that exists outside exists here, and it was as big as outside too. All in all, this was more useful than Mirror Dimension of the Big Mom Pirates. Anyway, let's get out of here, then. Amon raised his hand holding the sword, gripped the hilt hard, and ordered the sword by chanting the technique's name out loud, Dimensional Slash. With an eerie sound, Amon slashed downwards as the world went bright and an enormous cut formed in the air. Cool, Amon said as he then went to the outside of the artificial island and placed his palm on the wall. Then using advanced armaments repulsive force mixed with electromagnetic repulsive force, he pushed the ship and launched it forward as it went past the gate at a great speed. Whoosh. Doing the same with the other 10 ships, Amon was now on the outside world. Close the gate. Hearing Amon's order, the sword circulated its power, making this gate close with a sharp sound. Amon then placed the sword back to its scabbard. Ah. He noticed the surprised yelp and confused gulps from all around. Surely, suddenly a change in their surroundings was a bit shocking to them. He looked at Sumi beside him. We are at Skypea. The teleportation was a success. Sumi rubbed the back of her head awkwardly. It was clearly unaware that they have actually traveled half a world. Tuzmi continued. I thought you couldn't teleport with other people. Amon just smiled and walked away towards a few God's army soldiers. Currently, every one of the God's army was trying to Germa 66 soldiers up. The teleportation happened midway, so they weren't done yet. They were also taking care of the casualties and also maintaining their emotions after losing their brothers, fathers, and comrades. They expected to lose people close to them in this raid, but when this finally happened, they were saddened for the most part. They won, but at what cost? The lives of their comrades weren't cheap. Of course, these things didn't matter to Amon. He lost more than 1,000 soldiers, but he gained 10,000 Germa soldiers. That's all he cared about. Amon came to a stop in front of a few Shandians who were tying the Germa soldiers. He ordered, after tying them up tightly, direct the ship towards Shandora. 3 of the 2 commanders are injured, so ask Urich for anything. Hearing Amon's orders, the soldiers stomped on their feet. As you wish, Lord. They saluted as Amon nodded. They lost their comrades, but they still viewed Amon as their god after all, and believing a god was the most dangerous loyalty. Amon nodded and turned around as he met Urich's eyes from far. Urich walked closer to Amon and bowed respectfully. He then asked, Kami-sama, what do I do with these 5 Vinsmokes? He asked, pointing behind him where a few bodies were piled up. Amon made a thinking pose. Bring them to Yona. Ask her to imprison them until I return to them. Also, we need to hold a memorial for the lost soldiers. The casualty was big this time. We need to pay respect to their souls. Amon added with a sad tone. Urich nodded with a cheerful grin. As expected from our kind god. As you wish, I will talk with the officer necessary for the procedure after reaching Shandora. Amon smiled. All right, good. With Urich nodding again, Amon then walked back to Tsumi and ordered her, keep up the good work, but don't forget to go to the infirmary after reaching Shandora. There is a new doctor there. She will help you get all healed up. Amon then decided to teleport away, but just as he was about to take off, Tsumi nudged his clothes. Kami-sama. She looked at him with puppy eyes. Fly me to the doctor, it would be faster. Seeing her pleading eyes, Amon broke it laughing. Come on, get used to the pain already. Consider it training, my devotee. Your God blesses you with luck. He winked at her. Bye. BZ's tea. He then blitzed away from there, earning a scoff from Tsumi. What a kind god you are. After that, Amon ended up in front of Robin's room. Brahmaster, are you going to form that now? The old samurai voice of the sword asked, making Amon chuckle. Yes, it's time. Amon patted the sword's scabbard, ignoring its stutter. Big Mom has sweet commanders, Kaido has calamities, and finally, Whitebeard has division commanders. To manage big crews, these types of figures are needed. It was time. Time to form his own calamity. Robin was in her room, working on a few documents. She had to put Shiki's case on hold for now since she wasn't reaching anywhere. So she was rather working on the official matters of the Valkyrie org. A few days ago, Robin was tired. Tired of everything, but she held on. Then for reasons she wasn't aware of, one day Amon suddenly started to give her more attention, just like in the old days. Robin felt a warmth in her heart every time Amon did that. She felt all her fatigue vanish when he hugged her softly. And to not betray his trust in her, Robin was working harder than ever. She would solve these issues with the organization first, then she would solely focus on Shiki. He needs Shiki's information to grow, and I am the only one who can provide that information. I have to work hard. She finished her thought with a puff of white smoky breath letting out. It was near winter, so the Skypiean was cold. She couldn't say she hated this atmosphere. Knock. Knock. 2 small knocks fell on the room, as Robin leaned on her chair and looked outside with her basic observation Haki. Lucy. A small smile bloomed on her face. Come in. With a bolt of lightning, Amon appeared inside as Robin stood up from her chair, walked closer to him, and wrapped her arms around him. She placed her face on his chest, her ears listening to his heartbeat. Spoiled boy, do you need anything from me? Robin asked, feeling Amon's hands brushing her hair. I was here to borrow your creativity for a bit. I need to name my commanders, he said while placing his chin above her head. You know how the emperors have their strong people categories. I want something similar. Robin withdrew her head and looked at Amon's eyes. How many people do you have in mind for this rank? 7? Yeah, 7. Just like how the government has the 7 warlords, I would have 7 commanders. Hearing Amon, Robin tilted her head. A few seconds passed. 7. How about 7 gladiators then? Robin suggested, very serious. She looked over some names, but this seemed the best. Though to her surprise, Amon broke out laughing. Amon laughed as he pushed Robin away from him lightly. He then slopped on his back on the bed. Try something else. It sounds cringe. Then 7 Chronicles? Nope. Robin shook her head and made a thinning position. Then what about 7 deadly sins? I read it in a book. Wrath, pride, greed, lust, sloth, envy, and gluttony. These are the 7 deadly sins of humans. It would be interesting with each commander of this rank having their own title. Robin finished her line. Amon touched his chin and pondered this. It's not a bad idea. 7 deadly sins. Amon recalled the anime he watched in his past life. It might suit the people he has in mind. Riki, sin on wrath. Wiper, sin of pride. Boa Hancock, sin of lust. Urage, gluttony. Yona, sin of envy, sloth. That's the 5-member he currently has in mind. And other than Urage, the other 4 match pretty nicely with their titles. There would be 2 spaces vacant for now, and would most likely be taken by others soon after they reach a certain level. Amon smiled. Not bad, Robin. Then this would be the title, the 7 Deadly Sins. Robin giggled hearing him. Glad to be of help. Anything else? Amon was about to shake his head, but recalled his previous worry as he decided to act a little childish. He grabbed his sword and threw it towards Robin. Catch it. Ah, with a confused yelp, Robin caught the sword. Then an angry voice flew within the sword. You brat. How dare you throw this one around? Just who do you think you are, you pathetic weasel? Amon's face froze as he listened to the sword curse nonstop. Meanwhile, Robin looked at the scene confused. Judge, the Vinsmoke family's head didn't think they would be defeated like this. Yes, they knew they weren't the strongest, and precisely why they always laid low in front of powerhouses. Who would have expected for a tiger to suddenly target them as his prey? At least they didn't. Amon was a new emperor of the sea, so they expected knowing his secret would allow them to use him. Yet this happened. Sigh, a small breath fled Judge's lips as he looked down, his hands raised up and pinned against the wall. Judge woke up first, his body being stronger than his children. What he witnessed was a red-haired woman putting large nails in his and his children's shadows. What happened after was, without any physical restraints, they were unable to move their bodies. It's the shadow fruit. Judge recalled the name from the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. Currently, he was in a dark cell, with his 4 children restrained by their shadows beside him in the wall. They were still unconscious. Judge then heard footsteps coming from far. He raised his head and could see light on the other side, indicating the door of the hallway was opened. He stared in front as the figure of the same red-haired woman came in front of him. But what caused him to frown was the appearance of the other figure. It was the Sky Emperor. Amon his name was. Chapter 177, Conclusion. Jerma has been captured. The bald elder amongst the 5 elders blurted. It was Lucifer again. Lucifer. This name has been very active these days. Ever since his return from wherever he vanished to, Lucifer has been on the news every Tuesday. It was like the world was circling around him now. It was as if he was the main character of this world now. That's not all. The Baldy continued. He has announced the Drum Kingdom as his territory. We have also found traces of Moria's ships leading to the Skypea. And from the mouths of the CP9, it's clear the ship has been modified and is now floating 10,000 meters above us. CP9 somehow managed to come back with this piece of news, even though they did lose one of their members. This proved the high security of Sky Emperor, so high that even members of CP9 couldn't enter there. Is that all? He even formed a new title for his strongest soldiers recently. More infuriatingly, he announced it himself. The badly finished words while releasing a breath he didn't know he was holding. Sky Emperor, Amon. It's time to initiate a new bounty for him. Everyone in the room remained silent with a solemn look on their faces. This time, it won't be Amon alone. Riki, Wiper, Urij, some, even the new addition, Boa Hancock, the ones they had knowledge on, they would also get their bounties increased. The 5 elders nodded to each other. Amon was too dangerous to be left in a mere 2.4B belly. Monkey D. Dragon was a cautious individual, a person who always stayed passive, rarely raising his fist against others. Because he knew, when he would do that, the old fools would turn their heads towards him. The reason for his caution wasn't them though, as he knew, with enough planning, he could take down all 4 emperors. But now, there was a variable. Amon. From his encounter with Emu, he knew Emu was a little different from others, different from himself. It wasn't his will or his desire that was different, it was something else, something Dragon couldn't quite point at. He has seen Amon thrice, up until now. He walked the same road as him and ate at the same restaurant as him a few times. From what he believed, Amon still doesn't know of such incidents. This boy is not cautious enough. Yet, from this uncautious man, he could feel something. Something, similar to Imasama, something vastly different, yet the same. So every time he saw Amon's name in the newspaper, he got a chill down his spine. Today was no different. German 66 has been defeated by the Einherjar pirates. The missing ship of Gecko Moria found in Skypea. The appearance of the 7 deadly sins. Dragon read the newspaper on his table with a scowl on his face. New bounty posters also came with the newspaper, but he didn't care about bounties. What he cared about was the things that have been revealed to be associated with Amon. But why did he name them 7 deadly sins? Dragon asked himself. He is a self-proclaimed god, so why would he promote evil with this name? It was a thing to think about. 7 deadly sins were the incarnation of evil. Why would Amon bestow his commanders with such a title? More so, when he is a benevolent god himself. No. Dragon soon found the reason. From his knowledge, Amon's devotees are mostly the Birkins, as the Skypieans are still a little bit doubtful of him. The devotees do good deeds, yes, but they won't think twice to do bad deeds if Amon orders them to. He is deliberately doing this, naming them in this evil way. He wants to tell them that it doesn't matter if you are evil, as long as you devote yourself to me, you will get a chance in your life too. He is basically playing with their minds. A manipulator. Dragon registered in his mind. This kid, what's his goal exactly? Dragon feared he already knew what it was. For that reason, he realized, he wouldn't be able to sleep tight tonight. Things were going smoothly. Amon was happy with the speed of the procedures. His current goal was to gain a huge bounty for all the sins and then lure newbies to work for him. The final war would be big. He needs a large army for that, for him to stand against everyone. It won't be easy, but when has that ever been? Amon had a few posters in his hand, 6 posters to be precise. They had Amon, Hancock, Riki, Wiper, Urij and Sumi's photo printed on the front. They were bounty posters. Priestess Sumi, bounty 260 million bellies. Pirate Empress, bounty 500 million bellies. Mad Monk Urij, bounty 600 million bellies. Flame Sultan, bounty 800 billion bellies. Heavenly Sky Princess, bounty 1.1 billion bellies. Finally. Sky Emperor, bounty 3.3 billion bellies. Flame Sultan is Wiper's new title. Heavenly Sky Princess is Riki. Amon chuckled as the chair almost fell backwards. Sky Princess. Fucking hilarious. Minutes passed with his chuckle filling the room. Amon barely stopped himself from chuckling more as he then looked at his poster. I guess Moria's defeat, Drum Kingdom's defeat, along with CP9's defeat caused my bounty to jump up. But that's still too much. Amon recalled how many assassins were taken down before they could even reach Angel Island. The father of the three nobles did send some high-class assassins, so that also adds up. He also recalled the news he got a few months ago. The celestial dragons were debating hard to make his bounty increase. It seemed they have finally succeeded with these new things backing his dangers up. 3.3 billion isn't bad at all. Amon was amused. It's still below every other emperor, though. The sword's voice caused Amon to chuckle some more. And why do I care? It's only a matter of time before I surpass Roger's bounty. Just a matter of time. Amon answered, with a strange grin on his face. Amon imagined, once, twice, thrice, what he will do after reaching the top, what he would do after becoming absolute. The sword made a strange sound, as if sighing. Amon was soon out of his small mind game. He was now sitting in a different room, playing with a Rubik's Cube, a new product of the Sky Ink. This would sell pretty bad. Amon mumbled in his mind as he solved the cube in less than a millisecond with a spark of lightning in his hands. People of this world are too dumb for this. Sighing at this failed product, Amon shrugged as he put it down. He then looked around the room. It reminded him of the rich and classic office room he saw on T.V in his past life, something he never got to see with his two eyes before. This was inside Germa's HQ, pretty modern. Nodding to himself as he rolled the chair, he looked ahead where 5 people were kneeling, their eyes vacant. Amon barely stopped himself from laughing softly as he looked at the brainwashed puppets. He didn't use his own technique. He rather used Germa's technology to do it. Unsurprisingly, it worked better than his hands. After all, his brain hasn't surpassed the ability of a supercomputer. Yet, Germa soldiers are brainwashed puppets. Amon felt a sense of irony hit him, seeing their leaders being brainwashed from the same machine. Is this what they call karma? Amon didn't care, though. He had people who could even control that karma. Normally, it's not possible to brainwash people above vice admirals, no matter if it's by Amon's hands or the machine's hands. But it was possible with the Germa. Because their actual power level isn't vice admiral level, they only reached that level after wearing their raid suits. Now, Vinmoke Judge, why not explain the lineage formula to me? It was time for Angel 3.0. Chapter 178, God Complex. That was close. I didn't think I was this close to fucking up big time. We assumed since Master has sent Wiper, we would be able to take him down. So we didn't release the information to Kaido. Judge spoke, looking down with an apologetic look. We are sorry. We were foolish back then. To think we tried to lure Kaido to fight Master. How ungrateful of us. As he said, they knew about my Thunder Dragon transformation. I had no idea, so if Wiper failed, I would have certainly had to fight with Kaido again, though this time the outcome might have been different. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, Wiper succeeded. I should give some credit to that man for successfully saving my ass this time. But that can be done later. Judge, with an apologetic face, looked at my eyes. Master, we would like to redeem ourselves, our past selves who were foolish and short-sighted, who didn't know we were born to serve under you. Master, his eyes lit up. He turned his head towards Reiju. That's right. How about you get my daughter? I am sure she will make a perfect slave for you. No need. Calm down. I interrupted. You are only supposed to do what I order you to. You don't have to think who would be a perfect slave for me, I said with a cool gaze. Judge gulped his saliva, nodding twice. Sigh, as it is clear, Judge maintained his emotions even after brainwashing, most likely a perk of using the technology. Judge and the kids did lose their sense of fear for the most part. They still fear me, but they still have other emotions on them. To test their emotional limit, to see if these emotions can unbrainwash them, I tested Judge. I said some lines like, "Oh, Judge, how would you feel if I stripped your daughter and enjoyed her in front of you? Will you hold her down for me, stopping her from resisting? How about I call some of your soldiers to let them use her body as they please, and you enjoy it from the sidelines?" I said some more lines, but they are better to be left aside. Even after all these, it didn't seem he was infuriated. Even when I threatened to *P his daughter, I could tell he wasn't angry. He was even fairly happy imagining his daughter serving me, A successful brainwash, I would say. Though the problem with this small experiment is, the dude is trying to push his daughter onto me. Can't say I like that. I don't particularly like fucking brainwashed girls since I have others beside me. I would rather not fuck a brain-dead woman who can't even react properly. Sigh. Anyway, time to announce the start of Angel Surgery 3.0. But I shouldn't announce it, since it would stir up the suspicion that I unlocked my wings the same way. I need someone who would the people trust just like me. Welp, Yona it is. General POV. Just because Amon got the lineage formula didn't mean it would be easy to merge it with Angel formula. They are essentially the same. At their core, they serve to unlock the potential of a living being. While Angel formula focuses mainly on the wings of the winged people, lineage formula focuses on one's whole body. But mixing them wasn't easy. Hearing Seraph says this, Amon chuckled as he rolled on the chair. Come on, it wasn't that hard, was it? You did manage to merge them in less than a month. Amon blurted, shrugging his shoulders. Okay, I admit, it must have been hard if it took a month even for you. But hey, I even brought you the hard drives of the supercomputers that Germa possessed. You are super packed now. It should be worth it, right? Seraph sighed in her mind. You know, you don't have to look for excuses, Master. It's not like I wouldn't have done it either way. I am here just to do as you order, after all. Amon chuckled, clearly just playing with her advanced brain. Ahem, anyway. I guess you are aware of what happened above us. Amon pointed at the silver ceiling. The golden architecture had been heavily modified to hold off more than 100 incubators. I would help you connect with everything above. The golden architecture that holds Giant Jack was just Amon's second home before, but now, he modified it with Germa's tech in the past month. Now, there are hundreds of incubators that can be used for the perfect angel surgery. Certainly, my cameras do reach there. After all, I should be able to smoothly proceed with the surgeries after you connect me with the computer there. Seraph replied. Amon just nodded. With a flick of his wrist, Amon stood up. Welp, that's that I guess. Oh, almost forgot. Did you try to calculate what I said yesterday? Didn't Smoke raid you? Yes. Yes, I did. You were correct. By injecting her blood into your veins, you can be immune to the most potent poisons after absorbing her blood with Simi-Kikin. After a short silence, she added, it's also possible with any of her other liquids, like her saliva, her milk, and even her squirt. Sex is one of the ways as well. I didn't actually need to know that, but thanks. Will, help. With a strange laugh, Amon snapped his fingers and disappeared from the hall with a bolt of lightning. Amon talked with Yona. He explained to her what she needs to do, and why she needs to do it. He wasn't sure, but he doubted that Yona might question him that if he had done the same surgery for his wings or not. But surprisingly, she just bowed and said, as you wish. Cammy, I would try my best to gain as many abilities as I can. Yona bowed as she walked towards the incubator, leaving Amon who stared as he watched the glass close down from above while Yona put the oxygen mask on and prepared for the surge of liquid that soon flooded the incubator, naked. As many abilities as I can. She said this because it's not easy to get special abilities like Dingeki Blue. It's apparent with Judge, he doesn't have any special ability, unlike his children. Apparently, to gain such abilities, one needs to go through surgery when they are in their mother's womb, which neither Judge nor Yona is. So the chance of getting such an ability highly depends on the acceptance of one's genes. Amon hummed as he stared at Yona, who soon closed her eyes, going unconscious. 2 days later. Sumi wasn't expecting this. It hasn't been that long since her wounds healed, so she was taking a rest, thinking everything has passed for good. Yet, now of all times, such a bizarre thing was happening. My fellow brothers and sisters of the honorable wing race. Yona's voice flew to her ears as she again realized the sight in front of her wasn't a hallucination. Fwa. Yona was flying above the ground where almost each of the Birkins and most of God's army was gathered. She was flapping her wings, as she was looking below with a divine smile on her face. Everyone, our great Kami has worked hard and tirelessly, thus reaching a new realm in his godhood. Unlike before, he isn't a child god anymore. He has now grown to be strong, stronger than ever. He is now the strongest being on this earth. She observed the faces of the people below as a smile bloomed on her face. Everyone, why are you silent? Scream. Scream the name of your god. Though it was still silent after her declaration, it only took 6 seconds as the whole Skypea was riddled with cheers. Yeah, way to go. I knew Kami-sama could do it. Haha, that's our god. Everyone, I have something more to say. Yona raised her hand, making a stop to the cheers. After that, we will all cheer his name. Without a stop, she continued. Now that he has reached this stage, as a celebration, our benevolent Kami has decided to grant us something. He has decided to grant us one of his powers. This immediately caught everyone off guard. A power of God? Oh my God. Everyone gulped their saliva as they waited for Yona's words impatiently. To put a cool in their heart, Yona moved her lips. My brethren, rejoice, for we will now soon become fit for our home in the clouds. Our great Kami has decided to grant us the gift of flight. Fwa. Fuzzy. While the world went too loud for her ears, Sumi was trembling. Oh my fucking God. Sumi cursed for the second time in her life, the first time being with Amon on one night. The ability to fly. She can do that, even though she isn't a god? Sumi was certainly going to exploit this power to its fullest. Meanwhile, God King Amon looked down, a small smile on his face. Good job, Yona. The wings would add a good degree of combat ability to all of them. He never realized, somehow, he has brainwashed Yona, without actually brainwashing her. To think she was this much loyal. To think she didn't doubt his words at all. To think she would lie on their faces just for him. Arg, my god complex is turning me on. He wasn't joking, all this was borderline turning him on, arousing him. This was a new feeling, something he didn't think was even possible. Amon couldn't guarantee that by the end of all this, he won't own a heavy god complex. Frankly, he didn't hate it. Chapter 179. Fast forward. Thanks, you did a good job. Wiper didn't expect to hear this from Amon, his rival. I know it's not much, but take a few days off. I know you would like to test your new powers, so you should need some free time from work. Amon started, sitting in front of Wiper. Oh, I haven't congratulated you on your bounty yet, have I? Congratulations. What's the catch? Wiper interrupted him, as he grabbed the glass of coffee hard. Catch? Nothing, you just did a good job. I am being grateful, that's all. Wiper didn't buy his words. Amon was the type to praise someone when needed, but this wasn't that type of situation. Since he already thanked him once, so this was unnecessary. You mean you called me here just to repeat yourself? Amon chuckled at hearing him. And to spend some cousin LY time together. Cut the crap, Wiper basically snarled out. I don't buy this bullshit. Tell me what you want. Amon just shook his head, mumbling something under his breath. Wiper clearly didn't like hiding around the bush, and he was assuming Amon must have another reason to do this, though Amon didn't, in reality. Calm down, take deep breaths. I just want to discuss life, cuz. Amon shrugged as he lowered the cup of coffee. I also had to ask, why you haven't challenged me yet? You did say you would after awakening your fruit. Wiper's deep scowl slowly subsided. It seemed Amon really didn't have any other motive, or he was just that good of a liar. Either way, he didn't mind spending some time off training. Finally, coming to his question, I can't win. Amon almost seemed to choke on his coffee, but he managed to laugh it away. For real? Seriously? Shut up. Wiper retorted, truly annoyed. Yet, he maintained his serious face. I said I can't win, but that doesn't mean it's a universal truth. Wiper spoke. Amon slowly nodded with an amused smirk. As much as I would like to challenge you, it would just hinder my training. Both Amon and Wiper knew that in their fight, Amon would injure Wiper and make him unable to move for a month or so. That won't work. It would hinder his growth. Wiper plans to beat Amon, not get beaten by him. I know, the current me won't win. Wiper realized something from his fight against the Germa. If it were you, you would have needed less than a minute to kill them, and here I almost failed. True. Amon agreed, sipping tea. So I would rather train until you hit a block and I catch up. It might take a few years, even decades, but it's a lot better than trying, again and again, getting my bones broken. Wiper added. Amon chuckled softly. That's smart. I didn't expect this from you. What the fuck? You mean I can't think smart? Wiper slammed the table and got up. Fuck it, I am going. Well, that was sudden. Amon chuckled softly. As Wiper walked away, almost leaving the cafe, Amon called one last time. Oi, you plan to take part in the surgery? Wiper halted in his way and turned around, looking at Amon with a grin. A power-up is a power-up. Why won't I take it? The answer was clear. A power-up is a power-up. Wiper could already fly with his fire, but this way he would have other powers, such as shooting sharp feathers, though they won't grow back immediately since Wiper doesn't have Saimai Kickin', at least not on Amon's level. Finally, the door creaked as Wiper left and Amon sipped his coffee. Meanwhile, the receptionist, Conies, looked at all this with a bored gaze, while cleaning a glass that was already shining. She was lost in her thoughts, thinking about what she would eat at dinner tonight. Living alone wasn't easy, and as much as she hated it, living in the same house as her whore of a mother wasn't an option either. Knock. Knock. 2 knocks on the table caused her to sigh as she was in front. What now? Hearing her irritated voice, the knocker chuckled softly as he offered, "How about some light wine?" It was Amon whose everlasting smile caused her to grit her teeth. "Fix my family, then I will." She turned around and went to pick up a few more glasses, leaving Amon chuckling. "It's not my fault you found out about my relationship with your mother. It's your fault you revealed it to your father and ruined your family." He just shrugged and got up. "I am innocent." As he walked out of the cafe, greeting some of his subordinates with a nod, Amon started contemplating. It's time to use that girl, Lola. She would be an important card to use against Big Mom. Charlotte Lola. She was captured by Gecko Moria and was imprisoned there, and currently, she is in the prison of New Thriller Bark. From the anime, Amon recalled that Lola is someone who Big Mom hates, wants to kill, so it's no wonder, when he would propose to her to Big Mom, a sweet relationship would start between the 2 pirate crew. But first, let's pay a visit to Vivi. With a zap, Amon's body vanished from the middle of the crowd, rendering many yelps to resound from the people around. Nefertiti Vivi didn't want to marry the warlord Amon. She was happy when they engaged, yes, but she was not happy at the marriage. Why? Because her soon-to-be husband vanished from the earth and never came to visit her in 4 years. And when she started studying politics and things surrounding it, she realized Skypea was getting prosperous only because of Alabasta. She wasn't wrong, but she ignored the fact that Alabasta only survived because of Skypea, too. So in the end, she chose to cancel the marriage, somehow convincing her father. However, her mind was about to change after she spent her time on the Skypea, meeting people who referred to her as goddess. She was about to change her mind. But, at that time, when she was saved by that man, her resolve was straight: I want him. Although many different crises popped out later on, Vivi was able to marry Amok in the end. She thought she would have a happy life with an Emperor of the Sea, a sweet romantic life. But she was wrong. She was wrong assuming an emperor, such a big name, would have enough time to spend on her. She wanted to sometimes visit Skypea, but Cobra was against it, saying anything can happen in her way there, and she wouldn't go there without Amon's assistance. Although reluctant, she did listen to him. He wasn't wrong, after all. But the problem was, what unnerved her was, knowing that Amon wouldn't bring her to the sky, talking about, "Anyone can attack Skypea anytime. I don't want my wife to get injured." It was heartwarming, yes, but she still wanted to be with him. She knew what type of man he was, the type who won't mind sleeping with his own mother-in-law, so she even felt relieved that her mother died young. Knowing this, she felt strange. Knowing that right now, her beloved husband might be boning some other girl, it unnerved her. "I want to see you again," Vivi mumbled while looking at the couple's photo in her hand, while she laid down on her belly on the bed. "What are you doing right now, hubby?" In the photo where Amon was carrying her in a princess can't when she is wearing her wedding dress, a sigh escaping her lips. Just then, something familiar sounded out behind her. "Bzzzt." Vivi turned around immediately as her eyes grew. "Father-in-law called me a while ago, telling me you miss me a lot. Is that true?" The man of her dream asked as she jumped from her bed, directly in his arms and locked her arms around his neck. "You are here. I missed you a lot." She hugged him tightly while feeling Amon's hand brushing her hair. But immediately, the next second, her tone was dejected. "You didn't meet me for so long. So heartless." "Sorry, I was super busy, you see," Amon said while hugging her tightly, the small amount of dejection fading in oblivion. Meanwhile, she felt her body warm up in the touch of a man, her man. As she then raised her head up, reaching out for a kiss, a finger appeared between their lips. "Aha. Nope. No kissing or anything beyond that, unless you give me what I want, remember?" Amon commented as he then dropped her on the ground, on her feet. Vivi frowned, recalling his challenge last time. "No kissing or sex unless you can make 1,000 sand soldiers before my next visit." When she heard this, it irritated her, knowing she won't be able to fulfill it. But when Amon kissed her for the last time after that, she realized she can't live without subsiding this feeling in her crotch. So she tried hard, harder than she ever tried. And finally, after around 3 months of hard work, she had finally, "And what if I've overkilled it?" She smiled cheekily. "Do I get a special reward?" Hearing her, a grin formed on Amon's face. "A better product gets a better price, a simple logic. Of course, I will reward you especially if you overkilled it." He leaned forward and whispered in her ears, "I will teach you the pleasure of S&M." Vivi blinked, not knowing what he meant, but from the name alone, she could tell it was something sweet. "Then follow me." Vivi jumped away as she ran out of the door, Amon slowly following behind her. While smiling sweetly, his mind was contemplating the important things. Let's see, how should I approach Big Mom? 2 years later. Charlotte Linlin was very happy today, so happy that she was drooling. It's not really a rare sight, since she drools each time she sniffs something sweet. But today, her mouth could ever bring a tsunami. Because today, it was her birthday. "Mama, mama," she blurted, laughing out loud. "That fragrant birthday cake. I can't wait to devour it all." Beside her, a familiar chuckle escaped from the man sitting beside her. "Oh, Big Mom, you should at least let me take a bite. After all, I was the one to provide the mango flavor into the cake." The man in a light golden suit and similarly light golden pants, Amon, said, his shoulder-length hair fluttering in the air. "Or is that too much to ask?" Big Mom turned to face him, smirking. Normally, nobody would even dare say such a line, even if they are the ones who made the cake, but this kid had the guts and power to back it up. "Oh, Amon, of course, you can take a bite. You are, after all, my top special guest today. Mama, mama." She laughed, making Amon laugh too. "But only a bite, not more than that." Amon chuckled hearing her, slowly taking a sip of fine tea from the talking teacup. Chapter 180, Time Skip. Something was wrong. Alvida could feel it. If her long experience as a pirate has taught her something, it's that she should always trust her gut. Today, her gut was telling something wrong would happen. "Alvida-sama." Hearing one of her subordinates call her, she turned around with a frown. "What is it?" Her squeaky voice roared, making her sigh internally. As much as she liked people calling her beautiful, making her dream about a prince in shining armor, she was fully aware what she was. While she can avoid waking up from this dream by staying away from mirrors, but her own voice was enough to shatter her fantasy into oblivion. "Oh, Alvida-sama, we spotted a merchant ship in the distance. What should we do?" Alvida scoffed, hearing her minion's shaky voice. At least he was scared. He continued, "Do we attack it after getting close?" What type of question was this? They are pirates, are they not? Of course, or what do you suggest? Treat them a feast? Fucking useless. She stood up from the stool, looking at the man in front of her with disdainful eyes. Walking past the man with heavy steps, Alvida then raised her binoculars to her eyes and looked far. Indeed, there was a merchant ship in the far. A heavy chuckle left Alvida's lips. "All I see is cash, not a ship." Her pupils changed and formed dollar as she threw her binoculars behind her. Stretching her limbs a little, Alvida then looked towards her dozen subordinates who were frozen on their feet, waiting for her orders. "Oi, everyone. We are lacking cash for a while, aren't we?" Seeing everyone nod immediately, Alvida continued. "Then don't mess up this assault. Kill the ugly ones, capture the handsome ones, and get the beautiful girls for yourselves. We shouldn't waste anything." By the time Alvida finished, everyone had their eyes shining. They were intimidated by Alvida, but they didn't escape from her grasp. Why? It's because of her generosity with these things. The females in the crew could get male toys and the males could get females. They also got to eat delicious food, so they rather accepted the little torture their captain gave than to leave outright. As everyone nodded, gripping their weapons strongly, they finally got closer to the ship. The occupants of the merchant ship were already hiding in the corners of the ship, so the pirates could tell this would be an easy assault. Alvida smiled seeing this. "Everyone." At her yell, everyone grabbed the rope of the ship and swung to the other ships, starting to attack the innocent people at once. Seeing that some were fighting back, Alvida chuckled. "Poor fools." She grabbed a barrel beside her. There should be wine inside this barrel, but she didn't care. Raising the unusually heavy barrel in the air, she was about to swing it forward, but crack. The barrel broke as a human appeared from inside it, startling Alvida. "Who dash?" Go to Goma no dash. Before she could even yelp, the boy wearing a straw hat who looked no more than 17 swung his fist and punched her in the face, breaking her nose and making her fall on her back. "Pistol." "Meh." Honey Queen shook her head with her eyes locked on the screen in front of her. "Amon really wants me to join this kid? He is weak and pathetic, though." Controlling the submarine, she was in to move a little closer while keeping her eyes on the screen as the man with straw hat beat the shit out of Alvida and sent her flying in the sky. Honey Queen paused. "Wait, how did he make that fat woman fly like that? What kind of cheat is this?" She frowned and pinched her, asking herself if this was a dream or not. She didn't expect to see something magical in her new life in this submarine. Trying to solve the mystery, Honey Queen changed the angle of the camera and focused on Straw Hat as he approached a pink-haired short boy. As minutes passed and nothing interesting happened, Honey Queen sighed. Guess one new mystery to solve. She scratched her head. Either way, this satellite thing is a godsend, literally. To think Amon had such a thing on him. I can spy anywhere in the world with this. I have to thank Amon later then. Satellite. The ruler of space, Amon, had dozens of satellites flying above the Earth, spying on every corner of the world. Amon gave Honey access to the camera of the satellite because she has an important job. Though is this kid really a big shot as he had put it? He doesn't even know Haki. I can beat him in my sleep. What the fuck? Shrugging her shoulders, she observed Straw Hat's action through the monitor connected to the satellite. Well, it doesn't matter. My job is to become his first crewmate. I guess it's time. Honey Queen pressed some buttons of the submarine and set it in autopilot mode. Then going close to eveAny's ship, she pushed another button that created a hole below the ship and pushed her down the hole, sending her out of the ship in an instant. Then a mechanical arm grabbed her and threw her to the surface of the sea. Kia. With a high heartbeat rate, Honey Queen moved her hands on the water, slowly losing her body's strength, and just as the sound attracted the Straw Hat Man, he turned around and threw his hands forward. His hands stretched, and he grabbed the drowning Honey Queen, pulling her out of the water. Hey, you all right? Hearing her target's voice, Honey Queen opened her eyes. She honestly didn't want to do such a risky thing, but orders are orders. Amon said this would be the easiest way to get close to him. Cough. Honey Queen coughed out water that had invaded her lungs and sat up. Ah, tea. Thank you, mister. It's Monkey. D. Luffy. Ah, Mr. Luffy then. Thanks for saving my life. Honey Queen finished, bowing lightly and receiving a wide smile from Luffy's side. Hiki. No need for Mr. In Skypiean, Riki was training someone just like Amon had ordered. Get up. Your enemies won't stand by and let you cough blood peacefully. Riki started, looking at the person a few meters in front of her, on her knees and hands, vomiting blood. How can you be so weak? Isa. Just because you have observed Haki doesn't mean you can do anything other than dodging, and when a person is fast enough, like me for example, even if you see the attack coming, you can't dodge. As her training partner, Isa, stood up, wiping the blood from her lips, Riki stared at her with cold eyes. She won't show remorse when it comes to training people, not when Amon said he would make Isa into a sin. Now come, attack me. Isa nodded, not looking hurt at her words, already knowing she is doing it for her own good. She was 13 this year, but after taking the Angel formula 2 years ago, her growth spurt started, and she looked around 16 years old. Now it was a good thing, as it worked for her to get stronger, quickly. Kicking the ground swiftly, Isa vanished from normal sight. While the normal didn't apply to Riki's wisdom eyes, as she could easily see her movements in the slowed-down world, and her shining golden eyes almost looked like a pair of Tomoless Sharingan. Something Amon would have recognized. Seeing Isa approach her from behind, Riki moved her body and twisted her waist, dodging a blow. Just as Isa was about to pass her, she grabbed her hair and ruthlessly slammed her face in the cement. Bam! Ajh! Isa groaned, feeling her nose break down, as she fell down on the floor, limp. Riki scoffed. That's all. With her body trembling, Isa managed to turn on her back, her developed chest facing the high ceiling. Sister, why are you being so rough with me? Isa asked, huffing. I am being strict since you are going to soon face situations where your life would be on the line. Is that all, though? Or is it because of my words 6 years ago? Isa asked, making Riki pause. 6 years ago, she talked about Amon, faking his smile, and being someone entirely else in his heart. Riki didn't trust it and even yelled at Isa. Do you still have a grudge? But I was just saying what I could see. Riki sighed. Look, Isa, I hold no grudge with you. To make it clearer, I am grateful to you that you put that seed of doubt in me. It not only made me realize how wrong you were, but also made me realize how much my brother loves me. Isa didn't say anything. Frankly, she wasn't sure of her own words right now. She saw Amon's insides when she was young, being only 7 years old. So it won't be a shock if it turns out that she might have been wrong. But either way, it didn't matter much. It's not like she would gain anything from proving Amon might be a monster in his heart. Then, Isa mumbled, You are going to get a devil fruit soon. A powerful one at that. Riki said, her eyes screaming, Look how many brothers loved you. She continued, Although that fruit would be a long-ranged one, you should have enough power to protect yourself when an enemy gets too close. And what's that fruit gonna be? I won't say it. Even though Riki said this, the question did trigger her mind to think about the fruit's name, causing Isa to widen her eyes as she looked at the fruit's name floating above Riki's head. That fruit? Did Big Brother already found his location? Isa asked herself, but seeing her shocked face, Riki frowned. Wait. Did you just read my mind? Bitch. That's supposed to be a secret. Lesson No. 2. Don't peek in your superiors' heads. Riki yelled, dashing towards Isa to train her some more. Chapter 181. Fishman Island. Amon would have rather not come to the birthday party, but it was a good way to keep his relationship tight with the Big Mom pirates. But still, he might have thought this over if he knew sitting beside her would be so uncomfortable. Not because he was scared, but because of two other major problems. 1. She was drilling buckets, and 2. Hey, Amon, are you sure you don't want to talk about our marriage? Big Mom asked, barely controlling her drool and keeping her mind busy before they would call her to cut the cake. Fucking hag, glancing at her while smiling, Amon shook his head. Absolutely. You were called Big Mom, after all. I always imagined you as a mother figure my whole life. How can I come to think about you in a romantic way? Mama. Big Mom laughed hearing him. Although he just mother-zoned her, she could relate since she had her own mother figure. Big Mom hummed a little, thinking about another offer. 2 years ago, when Amon first came to hand over Lola to Big Mom welcomed him with wide arms. After accepting Lola and locking her up, Mama had a friendly spar with Amon, which ended in a draw. Surely, Big Mom was strong, although probably the weakest among the old emperors, but still strong. Yet, the new emperor, Amon, had resulted their fight in a draw somehow. Amon was aware of what this would imply. If a 20-year-old young man can match her life's worth of training, it's only a question of time how much power he would gain when he is at his prime, which usually starts at the age of 40 in this world. Other than that, it also implied that he has good genes. And Big Mom, being her usual self, offered herself. The offer was this: Amon would impregnate her, and the child will stay with Big Mom, but if it's a twin, Amon can take one. Yet what did Amon do? Of course, he declined. He was horny, yes, but he wasn't horny enough to sought after Big fucking Mom. Ah, you never agree. Big Mom laughed her usual laugh, then used her other card. Then how about you take Smoothie? I am sure, although you two's children won't be as potentially strong as ours, they will still be a monster in the future. Amon again shook her head. No, I am not interested in marriage right now. You see, I already have a wife and a lover. So another person would be problematic. Not really. If he wanted, he could even make them accept a slave as their equal. Amon just had to say a word. Rather, taking Smoothie won't work. Big Mom won't let go of Smoothie. So the offer would be like this: you impregnate Smoothie and leave her behind. And although he could potentially change that after many negotiations, taking Smoothie in Skypiean is nothing more than taking a ticking bomb with him. People at her level can't be brainwashed, and her personality isn't exploitable like Hancock or Robin, so making her fall in love is also out of the question. All in all, it's a bad deal. Fine, in the end, Big Mom had to use her final card. She parted her lips, but before the words left her lips, a shout came from ahead. Mama, it's time to cut the cake. Come here. The shout worked as it should, making Big Mom's mind go blank while she looked at the massive cake with a drooling mouth. I am coming. She stopped up from her chair and was about to run towards the cake, before glancing at Amon. Amon, we will continue our talk later. Amon smiled back. As if I will wait. Hours later, while Big Mom was holding a large party, Amon approached the guy who had been leaning against the wall for the whole time, observing everything. Yo, Katakuri. Amon waved his hand, making Katakuri raise his head. Have a minute? Katakuri looked at him with his eyes focused, seeing the future immediately. He nodded. You can leave if you want to. I will tell Mama later. Ah, you saw the future, Amon said, a whistle leaving his lips. What a handy ability, huh? I wonder how it feels like to know what other people are gonna say. As Katakuri parted his lips, Amon continued. Now don't say, it's not as cool as people put it. That's not true. I can confirm it. It's not as cool as people put dash. Katakuri stopped midway, realizing what happened as his eyes widened. Before he could say anything more, Amon waves his hand. Anyway, bye. Amon's body brightened up as he vanished from Katakuri's sight, teleporting away. Katakuri looked at the spot where he was before, a frown appearing on his face. So this is what happens when two users of future sight clash. I didn't see the future where he teleported away. Fleeing away from the party, Amon teleported far from Whole Cake Island. He flew, and finally reached near Fishman Island. After halting in the air for a second, Amon then went to a nearby island where he kept one of his belongings. T. There is a branch of wingless Valkyrie here. Amon is currently going there. Subtly moving through the electromagnetic fields in the air, Amon arrived above the 10 stories building of his organization. It's handy having branches all over the world since they practically treat him as a king. Dropping down on the ground, Amon walked through the road, greeting his subordinates as they returned to salute. Then slowly entering the estate, Amon met up with the man in charge of here. Yo, Broom, I am back. Broom, a brown-haired, decently muscular man in his 40s, turned his head towards him, smiling as he chuckled. Yo, boss. You gonna leave soon? Yup, I'm going to leave right now, even, Amon said, walking closer and handshaking with Broom. All right, I will bring your bike, Broom said, standing up and walking away. Amon had come here to fetch off his bike that he didn't want to bring to Big Mom's birthday. Instead, he kept it here, close to Fishman Island since he needs to visit there now. For the past 2 years, Amon has been frequenting Fishman Island, trying to manipulate Shirahoshi. And other than a submarine, coated ship, or swimsuit, the fastest way to reach there would be his bike that can operate underwater. As Broom returned, riding the bike and stopping in front of Amon, he undid his seatbelt and stepped out of the bike, nodding to Amon. Then, boss, I guess we will see each other later, Broom said, knowing Amon might come here again to keep his bike. After all, that's what he's been doing for the past 2 years. Yup. Otoheim was heated, ordering her subjects to prepare the palace for the upcoming guest. A nicely decorated dining, good food, and some eye candy mermaids. She prepared everything else needed, knowing Amon would soon come. His last visit was 4 months ago, so Otoheim wanted to make sure to serve him properly this time. Hey, watch out. Otoheim jumped up and caught a merman from falling, who was fixing the decoration after riding the stairs. Be careful next time. I won't always be there. The merman thanked her as she sighed, going back to help others. She was doing all this for Amon, to show him her utmost respect. Not only did he save her life, but he is also training Shirahoshi to use her power properly. He is teaching her to not get too arrogant. She is prophesied to be an ancient weapon, but Amon said he doesn't want that. He said, a girl as cute as she can't be regarded as a weapon. I will teach her how to use that power in a better way. Otoheim always wanted to make a good relationship with humans, and although Amon wasn't really a human, considering his wings, he is still the first person to ally with Fishman Island. He was a person she respected a lot, and wouldn't mind doing anything in exchange. Ding dong. Hearing the bell ring, her body jolted up as she ran towards the door. Chapter 182, Princess. Xerosiris is a good bike. With the lids closed, it can easily travel through the sea. I surely find this way safer than wearing a diving suit, though I am still wearing one under my jacket right now. Getting closer to the Fishman Palace, protected by a large bubble, I streamed electricity and teleported inside, just outside the gate. VZZT. The guards flinched at first, grabbing their weapons, but recognizing the familiar bike, they drew their weapons back. As I clicked a button, causing the lids to open, they bowed while I stepped out of the bike. Honorary guest, welcome back, one of the guards said, in a very humble tone. I suppose I should park the bike at the usual place? Smiling, I nodded and handed him the keys to the bike, getting a nod in response. As the guard left, the other guard pressed the bell and bowed towards me. After not that long, the door opened as Otoheim sprung from the other side of the door. Mr. Amon, you're finally here. Otoheim immediately bowed, showing her respect as I laughed softly. It's been a while since my last visit. I was close by, so I thought why not meet with my student on the way. I chuckled, helping her raise her head. Speaking of her, where is Shira? Otoheim quickly brought me inside, guiding me towards a sofa, as I sat with her opposite to me. Some maids arrived with tea and served us, a pleasant smile on their faces. Shira is in the study room, studying with her siblings, Otoheim said. Would you like to meet her first? Or would you want some food first? I slowly shook my head at her question. Unfortunately, I had my lunch at Big Mom's place. I am full currently. Seeing her nod, I continued. Though I would love some alone time with the beautiful mermaid queen and let Shirahoshi finish her lesson. Otoheim giggled hearing me, picking up her tea and taking a sip. Certainly, though wouldn't it be best to talk about work with my husband? She asked. Or am I needed for something other than work? I chuckled softly, not declining her claim. Odoheim has quite the way with her words. She has enough experience to notice what type of person I am. While I am sure she won't do anything intimate with me because of her loyalty to Neptune, she certainly doesn't mind flirting a little. But to be honest, it's about work. As much as I would like to spend time with you, it's about work. A request, I suppose. I was thinking of hiring Shirley for a few days, if you don't mind, of course. I say, seeing her pause. Shirley is an important power of Fishman Island. Her divination helps them a lot and allows them to look for the best possible choices in politics. Handing them to another person would be inconvenient. But honestly, they won't refuse me. Of course, as long as it's you, Amon. And I'm sure Neptune will agree. But can I ask why you would need her? She asks, as I think of the answer. It's because of a certain girl in my crew. She has great observation Haki, so I was thinking if Shirley could teach her divination for a few days. I was talking about Isa. I have sensed that her observation Haki has reached a stage where she can even match me. Well, not entirely. Everyone's observation Haki is different, even if they share similarities. By now, Isa has reached a level close to Katakuri. Yet, she can't see the future, even when she tries her best. I only have one guess, that her observation isn't the type to work on seeing the immediate future. She is rather a type like Shirley who sees the far future. Without any way for me to teach her, I need to use Shirley instead. Hearing my reply, Odoheim's expression became soft. Ah, it's that sweet girl Isa, isn't it? Of course, I will talk with Shirley personally. I am sure she would be happy to help, Odoheim said, remembering her time in Skypea a few years ago. After that, we talked some more. Mostly about our life and sometimes about our alliance. My alliance with Fishman Island has been of huge profit and would be more after Whitebeard dies, since I plan to declare it as my territory before Big Mom. Finally, as around an hour passed by, Odoheim ended her talk with a giggle. Then if I must, we should go and meet Shira. You must be bored talking with an old lady like me. I chuckled and followed her, as she stood up and started walking. Not at all, it's been a fun talk. With another giggle from her, we slowly walked, with me glancing around the castle. It's a good place. General POV. Only Amon teaches without any boring and monotonous lines. Shirahoshi sighed. Honestly, she didn't like studying. It was fairly easy with her intelligence, but sitting in her butt for hours, waiting for the teacher to finish the lecture, she always got bored. Sighing again, she stared as the teacher left, bowing. She has been homeschooled from birth, mostly because of her title as a princess and partly because her parents didn't want the situation with Hody Jones to repeat itself. She was fairly aware, but it was still boring. At least she was free to leave the palace, meeting the people below. So she was grateful. I wonder when Amon is going to return. It's already been 4 months. Or did he stop seeing me? She shook her head excessively, not wanting the thought to linger in her mind. She was sure Amon enjoyed her presence, so she didn't want to think of the worst-case scenario. He is my best friend. He won't leave me. Would he? Hey Shira, let's go and play. Her youngest brother called her, making her look at his tiny figure with a smile. Or would you wait until lunch? Hearing him, she shook her head. She didn't want to wait. By play, the boy meant playing with sea kings. Food can wait. Giggling to herself, she opened her lips. Let's go right now. But before she could continue more, someone entered the room with her mother, making her freeze. Hey, Shira, surprise. Look who's here. Looking over, as her mother finished her talk, seeing Amon waving at her, she felt her eyes widen and her smile grow as she jumped forward. It's you, teacher. She leapt, catching him by her huge hands, squishing him against her massive chest. From her mother's smile, she could tell this surprise was planned. Frankly, she didn't dislike it. Being pressed against the soft chest of the mermaid princess was certainly nice, but that wasn't important. Pushing her massive hands aside with his monstrous strength, Amon flew above her head and placed his hand on her head, patting it. Shirahoshi, I asked you to not hug me like that. It's suffocating, he said sternly, only achieving a giggle from the princess. Huh, I see you don't take your teacher seriously. Teacher, you are too small for me to take seriously. Maybe when you do that giant transformation, she said, making Amon shake his head slowly with an amused smile. She is actually not scared. Pretty different from anime. Her anime counterpart was even scared of fucking Luffy. Amon thought in his mind. This Shirahoshi was a new Shirahoshi. None of her crybaby-ness was present. She was a confident and cheerful princess. While I am sure things can change when I really get serious, her fright isn't a necessity to manipulate her. And, so, want to start our class already? Amon asked, seeing her beam at him. Yes, please. She giggled, rubbing his body against her cheeks. Floating a little behind as Amon looked at Shirahoshi playing with massive sea kings, he contemplated. This is boring. As much as he enjoyed the risk of being underwater wearing a diving suit, being Shirahoshi's babysitter was boring. The quickest route to stop babysitting her would be to brainwash her fish brain completely. Something he has tried before. Yes, although I did say my priority would be to recruit people first and brainwash them only if they reject me, Shirahoshi is a variable. Being one of the ancient weapons, I would rather brainwash her to be safe. Amon finished thinking, humming as he continued. But the brainwashing didn't work. Obviously, she is weak enough for my brainwashing to not fail, but it actually did. As for why it did, I have a few theories. One of the theories was about her ability to command sea kings. Honestly, that power was just an absolute level of Conqueror's Haki, considering that in canon Luffy was shown to order animals with his Conqueror's Haki as well, and Amon has done something similar too. It's not far-fetched to say the power of Poseidon is just using her Conqueror's Haki at an absolute level. So being a user of absolute Conqueror's Haki, it's no wonder Shirahoshi's mind is immune to brainwashing. And as annoying as it was, Amon could do nothing. And he didn't care, since honestly, Shirahoshi is a child, and manipulating her isn't that hard. He can make her fall for him, or do the cliché brother route like before. He has many ways to control her, and being her best friend was good enough for now. This was a weakness. The point that I can't brainwash Conqueror Haki users. He was correct, but to be honest, by the time Amon's own Conqueror's Haki gets super strong, this weakness would have long vanished. But honestly, not having Shirahoshi under full control mattered not. He already had Pluton on his hands from Alabasta. So Shirahoshi was rather a bonus than the main focus. She was useful, yes, but if she turned against him, he could one-shot her. Hey, teacher. Hearing her call, Amon looked at her with a fake smile. Come, my new friends want to meet you. With a nod, Amon then floated towards her. It was a pain that he could not talk underwater. Maybe a new tech would do? Yes, he should work on it soon. Chapter 183, Lion Hunt. You're gonna leave already? Shirahoshi asked in a slightly dejected voice. Why not stay today? There are plenty of rooms in the palace, or you can stay with me. She asked, making me pat her head. It was midnight already, so I could see why she didn't want me to leave. I shook my head slightly. Not today, honey. I have work to do, but I promise to come back later on and spend lots more time with you, all right? After a short silence, Shirahoshi nodded reluctantly. But promise to return soon. Don't make me wait 4 months again. She grabbed me by her massive hands and pressed me with her fingers. Promise. It was uncomfortable being in her grasp. She could almost bust my body if not for the fact I am too strong and she can't hurt my Logia body without Haki. Seeing her raise her pinky towards my face, I raised my left hand and streamed electricity in my own pinky, making it large as it wrapped around her finger. And with my current control, I can keep the voltage to a minimum where Shira barely feels the electricity on her skin. It's a promise, I added, smiling lightly. I will come quicker and play with you all day, my tiny princess. Hearing her giggle, I also laughed as I then pushed her hands away. Then, I should be leaving soon, but before that, don't forget to keep making new fish friends, okay? Hearing my words, she smiled sweetly. Of course, she said, not realizing this is how her powers increase the most. I will do as you say, huge teacher. In end, chuckling a little, I tried once more to brainwash her, but failing utterly. Not so long after, I decided to leave for now. Honestly, Shirahoshi is a hassle, but she is useful. I wouldn't have wasted so much time on a single person if they didn't have value. Riding the bike through the deep sea, I hummed on my next plan. 2 years have passed since I've been looking for Shiki, and finally, there is a lead. Honestly, it's Shiki who gave out the lead since he has started to move from his base, his 20-year-old mission finally coming to a start. Without him making a move from his side, we couldn't have ever found his hiding place. I have to say the man has a great level of stealth ability. He is good at it, master. He comments, making me chuckle. The sword's old man voice changed, rather picking up on a child's voice, still male though, saying he has been reborn, so acting like an old man would be dumb. He is good, mostly because flying islands aren't that easy to keep track of. Even if we got leads before, going to that palace showed nothing. Not even a hint that the island was there before. I continued. Robin almost gave up. Luckily, Shiki started to frequent the outside world not long ago. He couldn't avoid the eyes of Valkyries all over the world. Meh, all this work to end at nothing. He would die at our hands soon enough. Weak bastard. The sword says, making me shake my head. I won't say Shiki is weak, at least not in this world line. The movie Shiki may have been weak, but it might just have been plot armor. There are many changes in this world line than canon, even without me changing it. Shiki might be one of those variables. He might still be that monster who fought Roger on even ground. Honestly, I don't mind either way. It would be good training if he is a stronger version. But if he weak, meh, it would be an easier hunt, which should make up for everything. And other than that, he isn't my main focus. My main focus is the SQ formula and the animals enhanced by it. The other focus is Shiki's fruit. Calling that float fruit would be dumb. I should rather call it domain fruit. After all, once the user touches something, that thing is under his full control. Yo, master, look out. Some Seekings are heading this way. The sword says, despite knowing I already noticed them. Turning my bike around, then connecting my brain with the controller of the vehicle, I made small missiles pop up from the side of the motorbike as they rushed towards the monsters, painting the blue sea in a hue of red. General POV. Looking at Amon's eyes squinting the journal on his hand, Robin kept smiling as she felt a strange sense of peace in her heart. She finally succeeded. She finally managed to do it. She has finally founded Shiki's base, studied the trajectory of his flying island, and calculated their next position for the next 6 months. Looking over as a smile formed on Amon's lips, Robin waited. Waited for him to compliment her, to kiss her and drag her to the bed, or even bend her over right here. She didn't mind. She only wanted him to do something, anything to celebrate her achievement. As he raised his head, looking over to her face and reaching out his hand, she almost instinctively pushed her head forward as Amon placed his hand on top of her head and ruffled her hair. Good girl. You did a good job. I was almost giving up, but you finally went and did it, huh? Smart girl. He complimented, bringing her closer to his chest and running his hands over her hair softly. There was no lust in his eyes, no arousement in his pants. All he did was compliment her of her work. Without wanting to, a small smile formed on her face. She raised her head and stole a kiss, enjoying the surprised look on his face. I finally did it, Lucy. But you don't have to thank me. It's my job to do as you say considering who I am. She lied. She enjoyed being complimented for her hard work, and hearing a simple thank you pleased her more than being on her back. Her legs spread. Lightly kissing her head, as he pushed her head back to his chest, he hummed a little. It's impossible for me to not thank you. You've been doing this project for more than 2 years, and you finally succeeded in it. It calls for a celebration. She smiled. She was happy. Her birthday passed exactly 10 days ago, and she worked hard through it. Amon wanted to force her to take that day as a break, but she was too close to reaching the climax. So she held on, despite missing her birthday, and now she was getting rewarded. Biting her ear lightly, as she gripped his shirt tightly, Amon's ears chirped in her ear, Robin, let's go to the blue sea. I am all yours this week. Her eyes grew slightly as she raised her head to protest. He shouldn't be so carefree. He was a busy man after all. Seeing his nose poke her own, she paused before her. Lucy chuckled. It's all right. What kind of brother would I be if I can't spare a week for my workaholic sister? As he chuckled softly, filled the whole room, her own giggle joined soon enough. Such a loving brother she had. Honestly, this was mildly amusing and low-key funny. She has worked on something so wholeheartedly, spending 2 fucking years of her life on it. Yet she was happy with a few sweet words? Women are weird. He was right about it, and he won't change his mind. Walking through the corridor, standing outside another door, Amon stopped. Not that I hate it, to be honest. The easier she is, the happier I am to reward her. After all, if the rewards are as cheap as just hugging her softly and staring at the night sky, I have no reason to not be happy. Chuckling ever so softly, he then raised his hand and knocked on the door, waiting for the door to open. Hearing the footsteps growing louder as the door clicked from the other side, it opened and revealed a small girl rubbing her eyes. Hey, Brother Amon? Why are you here so early in the morning? The familiar voice of Otama asked as Amon smiled, hiding his smirk. Otama was only here for one thing, to use her powers on powerful animals. What better places to exploit that if not on the SIQ-enhanced monsters? Chapter 184. Honey Queen. Merville Strong World. He succeeded. After 20 years old long research, after 20 years of hiding from the world, he has finally achieved what he was looking forward to, the SQ formula. Sitting in his throne, looking at the sky outside, he contemplated, it's finally done. Huh. It was already done. Hiding for 20 years is finally paying off. He wouldn't attack the world yet. He needs to wait for 5 more months, so that he can make alliances with other pirates. His previous fame might have died out, but with a small spark, it won't be hard to make people join his crew. He was Golden Lion Shiki, the man with the largest crew in the world. More than 50,000 people were in his crew that could match the current emperors, the opposite of quality over quantity. Speaking of the largest crew, it seems things have changed. This wasn't his era anymore, but he didn't expect the brats to match, let alone surpass his prime days. He knew about Kaido, one of his early crewmates. That man has about 25,000 people under him, only half as his prime days, something scoffable considering he is one of the so-called emperors. Up until a few years ago, Kaido was the closest to him, but now, there is this kid who not only matches him, but even surpasses him slightly. Sky Emperor Amon. Without even counting his alliances, with his kingdom soldiers and organization members alone, he has around 60,000 people under him. An astonishing number, he had to acknowledge. Just with this, the child emperor has earned a little, just a tiny bit, respect and interest from him. If he had a chance, he won't mind forming an alliance with the child. Though, power usually brings arrogance, especially when it's handed to a child no more than 20, so I wonder if he is up to my standards. I just hope he doesn't cause any problems for me, considering he is the only nail in my way since he is the only emperor ruling over paradise. Shiki thought, humming to himself as he floated from his seat. Doesn't matter. If he is a nail that sticks out, I would just hammer him down. For now, let's follow the plan. Shiki floated from his seat and headed out of the throne room, wanting to rest with some ladies. Somewhere else. 5 more months. Calculating the canon timeline, Shiki should have made a move 5 months later. Amon thought, sitting on the edge of the ship while Robin's head rested on his chest. Lucy, are you enjoying the view? Robin's voice asked. Amon just hummed away looking at the sun setting on the far horizon. The ship slowly floating in the sea. While running his hands through Robin's hair, Amon kept thinking, kudos to Robin. She did a good job. 5 months is a long time. Getting the chance to hunt him down earlier would pay off good. Turning to Robin, he kissed her head, making her giggle slightly. It also seems Honey Queen successfully joined Luffy, and even Zoro joined in. Amon hummed. Being the first crewmate would help. Luffy would get attached, and controlling him in the future would be easy. Currently, they are heading at Usopp's place, and not considering some small changes, things have been going the same. Amon knew there won't be many changes in Easy Blue. The most change would start at Grand Line. Luffy won't get Chopper, won't get to meet the Baroque Works, won't get Robin, and Frankie, too much change, so much fun. Honestly, it doesn't matter if Luffy doesn't encounter the things he should have. Yes, it would mean he would be weak, and since Amon plans to team up with Luffy in the future, this might seem bad, but he believes the 2-year training would be enough to fix things. Hey, Robin called. Amon turned around. Hey, calling him towards herself. Robin hesitated. Yes, Amon asked, tilting his head. After a while, as Robin hesitated, Amon rubbed her cheeks with his palms. Just say it, I am all yours. She got some courage hearing him. She parted her lips, her voice low. Lucy, this is the last day of my week, so I just wanted to say, thanks for your time. Even though you could have gone and hunted Shiki by now, you decided to give me your time. Thank you, I really mean it, she said, hugging him softly. She hesitated because she knew Amon doesn't like to hear thank you or sorry from her mouth. He says there shouldn't be such things among siblings. She looked at him, his expression unreadable, like always. Chuckling very softly, Amon shook his head. It's nothing big. As I said, a week is worth nothing compared to your happiness. And just to be clear, again, you don't need to thank me. Really. I don't want our relationship to be shackled by thank you and sorry. You got it. Smiling to him, Robin leaned forward and kissed him softly. As you say, my lord, she said, making Amon laugh it out. For starters, you need to reward your slave when she does a good job. Otherwise, she would become unpleasant to be around. That's the first rule of owning a slave. Robin was a slave. Nothing more than that. She was just a slave worth more than others in his eyes, and that's only because of her value. Anyway, no evil thoughts. Time to move out. I already wasted 7 days with her. Time to use my time more efficiently. Amon thought, wondering how to train himself in the upcoming days. Ignoring Robin's light giggle from the side. Skypea. Riki was training hard. Not on her strength, nor on her swordsmanship. She was rather training her Haki. Recently, it was discovered that Wiper has Conqueror's Haki. It was surprising, but considering his will to surpass her brother, Riki assumed it was fair. But the part she doesn't find fair is the fact that she, the Heavenly Sky Princess, doesn't have it. Heck, even fucking Hancock has it, and she is a submissive bitch, at least to Amon. Either way, it wasn't fair. Riki wondered, was there a way to unlock it? Her brother said people are born with it, but by now she realized nothing is impossible with technology. Maybe she should ask her brother to look into it, or maybe ask the A.I. Maybe. Sigh. Welp, doesn't matter either way. Riki sighed. Her brother said armament can theoretically match Conqueror's Haki, at least on a super high level. According to Amon, Monkey D. Garp, the Marine hero doesn't have advanced Conqueror's Haki. Yet, he was able to become Pirate King's rival. Without Conch, the only way must be armament, right? That's right. Riki believed it so. So she was doing just that, and that was training her armament. However, she wasn't training it in some normal way, like punching metal and fighting strong opponents. Rather, she was doing something extreme. She was trying to turn her fucking bones into black bones. Since blades can become black blades after applying enough Haki, bones should work the same way, right? Of course, nobody tried it, as even Amon didn't even think of it. When she proposed Amon of this idea, he was genuinely surprised, making her feel proud that she thought of a way that even her genius brother didn't know about. So she was doing it. For 2 years, she has been applying her Haki into her forearm's bones. By now, her left arm's forearm bone has already turned black, since she is a lefty and used more Haki on it from the start. As for why she was able to turn her bone into black bone so quickly, considering the existing black blades are on the hands of old people, according to Amon, it's because they don't constantly push Haki in the blades and only apply them in battle. In contrast, Riki has been applying them almost 24/7 the past 2 years. Of course, Amon has been doing the same too, and his Haki being stronger, both his forearm's bones have been turned into black bones. Something, he believes, no emperor has since they focused their Haki on their skin and weapon. Of course, this means nobody had black bones other than Riki and Amon, right? Oh, how wrong they are. It's been a while since she's been here, and it's been a fun time teaching Isa. Shirley appreciated Amon for calling her here. So, teacher, why do you use a crystal ball? Does seeing the future require you to use the crystal ball? Isa asked, making Shirley chuckle. Shirley was amused at her question. Of course, that's the first thing she will ask. She has been so tired of hearing this. But it made sense. Her queen did say the girl was 13, even if she looked a lot older. It's the crystal of a young Bonbori fish. It holds immense life energy in it. And no, it doesn't help in future Sai. It rather helps emit the future like a TV screen. I use this to show my customers that I am not lying. I might or might not gift you one at the end of my teaching, Shirley said, finishing her line with a giggle. Isa nodded, with a slight excitement in her gaze, making Shirley ruffle her hair. She was a cute girl. Her time teaching Isa would be enjoyable. Chapter 185, Rebellion. Damn. Peeking in the room from outside the door, Perry mumbled to herself. Waking up at night, wanting to drink some water, Perry had discovered her jug empty. And when she came out of her room, wanting to fill the jug, she saw something unusual. Marshal D, teacher target, was casually going to Thatch's 4th Division commander of WB Pirates room. Honestly, it wasn't that unusual. They might be wanting to discuss something, or maybe play chess. Anything might be the case here. However, Perry was specifically ordered to watch out for this exact scenario. So she very quietly followed him, and what she saw shocked even her brainwashed mind. I wonder how Whitebeard will react with one of his sons killing another, Perry thought, holding back a laugh. Her master would like this news. Looking in front, as Blackbeard took out the bloody dagger from Thatch's chest, Perry decided it was time to go. Her ability to hide won't help when Blackbeard comes out of the room and meets her face to face, after all. Random hotel, New World. Ah, amazing. Amon smiled as he put down the tone dial on the bed. He certainly didn't expect to wake up so early in the morning from a phone call, but the news was enough to make up for it. Perry has been with Whitebeard Pirates for years now, and her time of the report is usually every week. So when Amon saw her call 3 days before the usual date, he knew something was up. He had also guessed what that might be since Luffy has started his journey already. Finally, Blackbeard did it. Amon chuckled while stretching his body. Honestly, I can't wait to experiment on his body. I want to know his secret to 3 fruits, and also his secret on the fact that he had hurt fucking Shanks. Frankly, hurting Shanks isn't even a big deal, since he got hurt by a fucking Sea King, even though willingly. But the big deal was how weak Teach acted with Ace. Was he the same man who injured Shanks? What is his secret behind it? He surely doesn't have super strong Haki, or he would have thrashed Ace, so does that mean a strange technique? Most likely. Amon wasn't impatient though. To make things run smoothly, he needs to force things to go according to the plan. Ace is supposedly very pretty this time around. He has all types of Haki too. The current Blackbeard won't be able to stop him even with his fruit, unless a certain someone intervenes. Getting up and sitting on the edge of the bed, Amon then looked beside him, Robin's naked body lying there silently. Yawning to himself, Amon walked to the bathroom to take a shower. Skypiean, days later. All right, Amon paused, looking ahead. Several days have passed since his date with Robin ended. Now he has prepared enough and finally decided to attack the Golden Lion pirates once and for all. Do you guys know why I called you now? In front of him, 4 of the 7 deadly sins were gathered, standing straight respectively, except for Riki, who was sitting on the floor with a bored gaze. Maybe, Riki replied, munching on some French fries. Not that it's hard to guess with you suddenly giving Robin 7 days of your time. Did she do something great, like finding the location of Shiki? Tada, Amon smiled at her. 10 points. Nice guess. Stop it. It's cringe, Riki stated, making Amon chuckle. Either way, you want to attack Shiki now? Shut up and listen quietly, Amon ordered, leaning back on the chair as Riki groaned, though she complied with him. Along with you 4, I and Otama will also go. We 6 would be the only people on this raid. While everyone nodded, Riki raised her eyebrow. Don't you think it's a bit too much? This is not like a test either since you are going. Isn't you alone? Or you and me enough? Not necessarily. Shiki's main weapon is his animals. If they rampage all at once, nor I or you would be able to stop them, well, at least without killing them. Amon finished, and with a small frown, Riki nodded in understanding. Oh, and Sumi. Amon turned at Sumi, making her straighten her posture. My sin of greed. I would be watching you the whole time. I want to be sure that selecting you as a sin was the right choice. Sumi managed to climb the ladders and grab a seat in the sins. It's been 2 months since then, so Amon was still very interested in his choice. Amon doesn't want the sins to become like the division commanders like Whitebeard pirates. He wants each 7 of them to be as strong as the Beast Pirates' Calamities or Big Mom Pirates' Sweet Commanders. Other than Sumi, the other 5 sins have enough power to reach that level, but Amon wasn't quite sure if Sumi was there too. I will make sure to prove you didn't make a rash decision, my Kami, Sumi said with a light bow, revealing her cleavage slightly. Raising her head with a grin, she locked her gaze on his eyes. I will try to overshine the other sins. After that, Urij, Riki, and Sumi asked more questions, mostly about the details of what they would be attacking. They are strong, but Amon taught them to be cautious, to not underestimate anything, more so the rival of Pirate King himself. All this time, Hancock stayed silent, making Amon observe her for a second. Amon parted his lips after shifting his gaze from Hancock. This bitch. Again? Why? After an internal sigh, Amon stated, All right, everyone, leave for now. We will leave for Merville tomorrow. Take as much preparation as you need. We will meet in the morning. Oh, Hancock, stay behind for a while. As you wish, with a nod everyone turned around and left, leaving Amon and Hancock behind. Looking ahead as Amon ordered with a slight coldness in his tone, she froze. Pet, come here. Pet. He called her pet, something he has been doing for a few months now. Yes, she was just a pet, nothing more. A pitiful pet serving her owner. But why did the thought make her heart beat faster? After a second, she slowly walked closer to him. Get on all 4, like a dog. Amon ordered as she did it after a slight hesitation. From down below, she looked up, meeting his red eyes looking down at her like the slave she was. He raised his right foot and placed it on top of her head, ordering, bark. For a second, she wondered what was happening, before she parted her lips, a soft sound leaving her lips. Woof. Again. Woof. Amon smirked amusingly. She felt her life had been worth it seeing his smile. Again. Woof. At the final woof, Hancock's voice was dry, as she gulped quietly. Amon pressed his foot on her head with force. Tell me, What are you? I am your pet. She answered immediately, her breathing rough. Good answer. Amon rubbed her head with his feet. As a pet, your job is to satisfy your owner, isn't it? She nodded. Yes, that's your only job. As a dog, you are supposed to obey all orders of your master. She nodded again, albeit with a small gasp leaving her mouth, clearly aroused. Then if that's the case, why are you having different thoughts? Her increasing arousement paused as she froze. You are a mere dog, a bitch. My bitch. Amon interrupted her. And what was your master's order? To not pick a fight with Robin again. But what did you do? You were thinking of going to Robin's room and starting another quarrel, HM? Tell me, pig, isn't that against what I said? His voice was not grim, but rather slightly irritated. Hancock stopped moving. Her heart dropped, realizing he has read all her thoughts with his observation Haki. He saw how she paid no attention to the meeting at all. She gulped again, this time loudly. Amon chuckled. Are you rebelling against the person who saved you, ungrateful bitch? Her eyes grew. I would never dash. She stopped, looking at Amon's gaze penetrating her thoughts. I am sorry, master, Hancock mumbled, her eyes red and teary. This D-dog didn't know the best. I should be punished severely. Amon chuckled darkly hearing him. That's right. At least you are aware, bitch. Turn around. Face your ass towards me. Amon finished, standing up and walking forward as Hancock slowly turned around on her four. I will need to teach you to not disobey me ever again, you fucking slave. It's better to control her this way, or the fight will start for the third time. The second already happened with Vivi, and I don't want that. Sigh, fuck this shit. Shaking his head, Amon stared at Hancock and decided on how he would teach her a lesson. And honestly, with his emotion-sensing powers, he could tell she enjoyed being treated like this quite a bit, so it's not really a bad thing. Chapter 186. Reiki. A rectangular cloud with car seats attached? It sure looked super comfy. Staring ahead at the cloud car in satisfaction, Amon let out a smile. This car has everything a normal car needs, and additionally, it can fly in the sky and float on the sea very fast. Guys, ready? He asked as everyone nodded from the other seats. Let's go. Vroom. The engine roared as the wheels started moving, immediately rising in the air as it burst forward at a moderate speed. The car wasn't that complex, it's just a chunk of island cloud loaded with car components. Easy to make, and sells high. Considering it can only be made with island clouds, the other competitors from Blue Seas were unable to recreate them, so Amon easily held the monopoly over such a versatile vehicle. Enjoying the wind against his skin as the car flew above clouds, Amon leaned back in his chair as the car moved on autopilot mode. This thing had a GPS inbuilt, connected to the dozens of satellites above the layer of the atmosphere, so it was easily able to go to Mervelli. Oi, brother. Riki called. Amon turned to look at her, a scowl on her face. Why? Why are you bringing that little girl with us? Riki said, pointing at Odama who was sitting on Amon's lap, eating a chocolate bar. Odama tilted her head but said nothing. Amon shook his head and focused in front of him. He said, she is the key to this mission. She would make sure the animals don't start rampaging. Don't you know how powerful her power is? Riki groaned. Yes, but she is a kid. What if she dies? Then she dies, Kek. Amon chuckled, making Riki scowl. All right, I will stop. Don't worry about her. I will protect her from harm. She is too important to let her come harm's way. Amon knew Riki didn't like kids that much, but she was quite fond of Odama. Well, just a little. Either way, while she doesn't mind hurting Odama or anyone, either for training purposes or fun, she didn't like the fact that Odama could die if things go south. Still, since Amon said he would protect her, she wasn't worried anymore. If you say so, oh? Riki suddenly cried, jumping slightly from the seat as a smile crept on her face. Oh, bone number 2 done. Amon glanced at her smile and focused on her arms. She has been applying Haki all the time every second, and it seemed both her forearms were now blacked out. With a smile, Amon raised his hand and patted her head. Good girl. Now you should focus on your wings. I am doing it too. MHM. Riki nodded, checking out her arms with shining eyes. Both already? From behind, Hancock's voice asked, her tone filled with her usual arrogance. She was a sub, but she was a sub only to Amon. HM, both of my leg bones below the knees also became black. She noted. I am focusing on my thigh bones now. It will take a few months though. Amon glanced at her as she immediately avoided eye contact. Good, Amon said with a small chuckle. Her Haki was a step stronger than Riki. She had the talent for it. And being a kicker, she rather focused on her legs. According to Amon's knowledge, only her, Riki, and Amon had black bones in this world. Other than me and Riki, only the Sins know about this technique. I didn't teach the minions, since even considering the great security the kingdom has, if the technique somehow gets out, the emperors would surely become aware of it and, with their Haki, they would easily overshadow me and cause more problems for me. Amon thought. Can't let that happen. Oh, Hancock, baby. Amon turned back, smiling at her as she froze in her place, wondering what's to come now. How much did you progress in Advanced Conquerors? Hancock visibly sighed and tried her best to maintain eye contact. Well, I am still at the beginner level. It's hard. I can't pin how easily you do it. But I'm trying my best. Good girl. I will reward you later. He smiled at her, turning around as she sighed in relief. As the car leapt through the air, going past many birds, the sun slowly moved above their head from the eastern sky. Sitting on the throne, Shiki frowned. He just got some weird news. Someone is coming towards this island? His radar had caught on something. Someone found this land hidden in the clouds? Impressive. Let's see who you are, and let's see how I should deal with you. Dr. Indigo, Shiki called, as not long after a man in a lab suit with blue hair came inside the room. Shiki looked at him and asked, Any guess who it is? Indigo raised his hand in the air and parted his fingers, moving them through the air and drawing something. From top to bottom, left to right, he moved his hands and tried to show Shiki what he meant. After a few minutes, veins popped on Shiki's head as he snarled, You have a mouth. Use it, damn it. Okay. Indigo immediately replied, making Shiki fume. And no, sir. I would prepare the animals just in case. Maybe it's Kaido? He is one of the only ones who can move so fast through the air. It would be bad if it was him. Kaido had a good relationship with Shiki, but that was the past. Their last meeting ended in a fight, and that was 20 years ago, but Shiki didn't believe it was Kaido. It's not him. I have a gut feeling, Shiki said, leaning back and resting his head on the chair. Now leave. My head is hurting. I should preserve some strength for the possible fight. Piro. Alrighty. Indigo laughed and walked out, his shoes squeaking on his every step. Just as Shiki's eyes followed Indigo's body, leaving through the door, his eyes sprung up as sensed something. Immediately, something large and fast came crashing into the throne room, breaking the walls. Roar. A roar deeper than any animal on the island startled Shiki off his seat as he looked at the face of a dragon in front of him. Kaido? He asked, floating up with a frown on his face. What are you doing here, brat? Before he could react, the dragon head whipped as it went for a bite, catching Shiki off guard and devouring his body in its mouth. Seriously? What's up with this bitch? Oi, will you stop trying to get in my head? Shimoda yelled towards the ground, towards the outer force that has been trying to get in his head. My head is protected, super protected. I am a genius scientist. You think I never planned against a supercomputer trying to hack into me? No answer came for the first few seconds. But soon enough, a buzzing drone came flying closer to him as the voice of another robot sounded out. That's why I am trying to break into you, to try and see what my limits are. Is this boss order? Motor groaned. Fine, do it. Try as much as you like. Just a heads up. I am super secured. I am a tech god. He turned around and stomped his way out. This bitch was ordered to hack into him? Fine. He would show why his clones feared his genius. They don't call me Motor Gang's leader for nothing. Chapter 187, Sky Princess. Kaido. Hearing Shiki's yell with his super-enhanced sense, Amon moved through the air with Otama in his hands. That's not Kaido, that's Riki. Amon laughed to himself as he grabbed a dango from Otama's hands and shoved it in a monkey's mouth before it could even realize. They were moving fast, not fast enough to make Otama uncomfortable, but fast enough to meddle with the animals without getting noticed. Otama, you doing okay? Amon asked as he patted the little girl's head lightly. Bear with me, this will be over in a zippy. Otama just giggled childishly as she threw her arms around, her hair fluttering in the air. I am fine, I am enjoying the wind. Don't worry too much. She again grabbed her cheeks and separated it into a white ball, handing it over to Amon. Oh, also, will Sister Riki be fine? You said the enemy is strong. Amon shrugged as he fed a snake some dango at a fast speed. She won't die at least. Wait, so you mean she might get super injured? Otama asked, worry clear in her voice. Her tone immediately changed as she giggled. Hee, I would tease her when she would be bedridden. Hearing Tama's hee, Amon curled his lips up. How nice. Perfect. Making her spend time with Karna was a fun idea. She wasn't a heartless monster, but she had it in her. Just as overly emotional people aren't good, neither are the ones who are completely emotionless, as they are super hard to control. That's why this was perfect. Tom, dear, we would be done in 5 more minutes. Riki would be fine for now, Amon stated, grabbing another dango. Let's finish this quickly. We need to teach the big bad guy a lesson. Nodding in agreement, Otama nudged Amon and handed more dango. She was proud of being able to help. Other than that, she is making so many friends at once. It's a win-win situation. Oh, and Riki is getting beaten by Advanced Conqueror. Haki. As I suspected, this Shiki is different. Sumi summoned weapons made of ice and threw them forward, penetrating the bodies of weak pirates. She was a little confused about how easy this was. Wasn't Shiki supposed to be Roger's rival? Why is his army so weak? Looking around, as her colleagues fought with an unimpressed look, she could guess they had the same question. Amon brought them here for these bunch? Well, free work. Fuck. He could have easily single-handedly finished this bunch of 10,000 people. No? Yes, he was definitely fast enough. Yet, sigh. Sometimes she hated her job. She was dragged here to fight, but this doesn't even count as training. These people, they were too weak. How the hell is she supposed to prove she is worthy of her title in this scenario? Shaking her head as she looked at Urich smashing everything in his sight, she realized the least she can do to prove herself is to have the highest kill count. But that was a problem too. How the hell is she supposed to beat fucking Urich into knocking people out? Or even that woman? Boa Hancock, her god's lover. She was literally punching the brains out of the minions. It seemed Conqueror's coding or whatever was very destructive. Ah, wish she had it. BZT, crack. Fuck, this hurts. Feeling the black lightning-coated fist hitting her in the large serpentine face, Riki groaned. What the fuck? Advanced Conqueror. Why does he have Advanced Conqueror? She heard this guy was once Pirate King's rival, so she expected nothing less from him. But what the fuck? How did his old bones hit so hard? Spitting out a dragon tooth, Riki growled. Fuck, old man, you're strong. The man in question, Golden Lion Shiki, stopped his punch midway and frowned. I realized you aren't Kaido, but to think I've been hitting a female. It's no wonder you're weak. He spat out, making Riki scowl. If I am right, you are that girl. Heavenly Sky Princess, aren't you? Or do they call you Sin of Wrath? Both. Riki didn't anything else. She raised her head up and went for a headbutt. At first, when she devoured his body in her mouth, she assumed it would be finished, but the guy actually broke her teeth and came out. Not only that, even though her teeth did grow back immediately, the guy used his power to float the teeth around and use them as blades. Riki's teeth were sharp, very much so, at least in her serpent form, so using them as blades was a smart move. Still, Riki growled. She focused on her powers and formed many balls of light above and beside her head. She doesn't need to spit out a ball of light, not anymore. She has learned ways to control her power. As the light balls glowed brighter, dashing towards Shiki at a fast speed, Shiki waved his hand, and the ground below him sprung up and formed a barrier. Arg, Riki groaned and raised her head up, flying back into the sky. Brother was right. Your fruit is broken. It says it's supposed to make things float, but it's literally a nerfed matter manipulation. Damn. Right. I've heard that a lot. As Shiki also floated up, he scoffed. Girl, don't you think you should use your hybrid form? Because currently you are just a large punching bag. Riki chuckled at hearing him. Shiki moved his hands as the water in the ground started to move. Riki grinned in her dragon form. Nope. You think I'm dumb? I won't stand 2 minutes against you if I go hybrid. My defense is the only thing keeping me conscious, yet your blows hurt a ton. You want me to go hybrid where my defense is shittier? She shook her head. I was instead thinking of using my ultra defense form. My defense is supposed to double. But if I do use it, my training would be ruined. Shiki had a scowl. Brat, you're taking this as a training montage? Your friends are here too, beating up my people, and you're keeping me busy. What's your goal? Training? Or something deeper? Riki laughed out loudly. Oh dude, training? Yes. That's one reason, but we have other reasons too. Anyway, I am not supposed to talk too much, or I would get grounded. She said, maybe try to make me talk? Either way, you're gonna die today. She hissed as her jaws parted, revealing her tongue as an orb of yellow light started to form. After less than a second, she spat out the ball as it blurred, and a beam of heat left towards Shiki, causing him to throw his hands upwards, as the water below them sprung up and formed 2 water dragons. Immediately, as the beam started to approach Shiki, the two water dragons stepped in front as they shot their own beams, water beams. Boom, Riki is getting beaten. Nice. Anyway, I am close to done, so I guess it's time to finish Shiki. I looked at Otama and patted her head. Tama, stay with your new friend, okay? I will be back in a zippy. Tama nodded as she was sitting on top of a yellow duck. This is the duck from the movie Strong World, a bird with thunder powers. Nice guy. I can talk with him telepathically because of our similar powers. At first, he was scared when we approached him, but when Tama fed him her dango, it became strangely obedient as its emotions for Otama sprung up. Damn, dangerous power. All right, duck, protect her. If she gets hurt, I will kill you, I said, electrifying the duck as it flinched, nodding profusely. Otama also nodded. Then I focused on the part of the island where Shiki was fighting. BZZT. Grabbing my sword, Kiyu, I teleported past the air and moved above Riki and Shiki. Kiyu said something about going all out, but I didn't heed to it. Yo, sorry for interrupting, but it's time up, I said, standing about Riki's head and rubbing it. Riki had her mouth open, preparing another beam as she frowned. I said time up, slut. While Riki groaned, Shiki, who was preparing a punch for Riki, paused briefly before he kicked the air and dashed towards me. I shot Riki a glance and told her to stay back with my gaze. Shiki approached me, but instead of punching, he raised his sword-attached left leg. I noticed he changed his weapon because of me. My hand was resting on the hilt of my sword, which caused him to assume I would use the sword instead. He's going to use his own sword to respect my weapon of choice? Good guy. I grinned, grabbed my sword, but didn't fully take it out from the sheath. I charged my body with electricity and entered a world of speed. A world where I was as fast as a bolt of lightning. BZT. Grinning, I flicked my wrist as I swept past the frozen Shiki, slashing across his neck. Sky Sword Style, Form 7L. General POV. He didn't expect the Child Emperor to be here as well. More so, he didn't expect him to appear out of somewhere above that dragon girl's head. Most likely an ability of the Garo Garo no Mi. Either way, the situation changed, so he did the most sensible thing, target the stronger opponent. As he changed his target, launching at the Child Emperor, he noticed something. The Child Emperor had his hands on the hilt of a sheathed sword. Ah, a swordsman. He nodded to himself in his head, drawing back his fist and rather raising his left leg. Cladding it in Conqueror's Haki, he decided to end this once and for all. The girl only survived since she had Kaido-level defense. But that wasn't the case for the Child Emperor, was it? He was right, but Shiki made a mistake in his calculation. He didn't realize the same applied to him as well. He didn't realize his defense wasn't great either. Just then he moved, or did he? Honestly, Child Emperor was too fast for his eye, another ability of his devil fruit. At last, he felt a slight itch in his throat as he understood what happened. Before his head was separated from his shoulder, he could have sworn he heard this question. Answer this, Golden Lion. What happens when you get slashed at lightning speed? The answer was simple. However, there was no Golden Lion Shiki left to answer it. Chapter 188. Next phase. Slamming the buff man to the floor, Sumi sighed. So easy. Why is this so easy? She wanted to prove her worth, to prove that she is worthy of her current title, to prove she was worthy of being called the sin of greed. Sumi liked her position as a priest before Amon destroyed Burka. She just sat in her but, blessing people with her palm raised, and worshipping the seemingly non-existent god. She quite enjoyed it. Being lazy but getting what she wanted. But there was only a tiny, no, a major problem. She just wanted more. More power. More respect. More laziness. More food. More attention. She wanted more of every good thing. So she had the position of archpriestess. Maybe that would cure her hunger? Maybe then she would finally find peace? She wanted to try it. But before she could, God himself descended on the mortal realm. She barely believed God existed. So when she saw the little boy with the power of thunder, her whole existence was shaken. She was scared that she would be punished for her sin, her greed. But luckily, the man seemingly didn't notice a thing. Then she started to work under him. She had no problem. She even felt better than before, as she had people working directly under her. She had absolute control over them, just after God himself. She was satisfied. Unfortunately, it only lasted a few days. Her greed returned. She wanted to climb the ladder, but she wasn't getting an opportunity. It was then, as Amon introduced the sins. Sumi knew this must be her fate. This must be her time to shine. So she tried, and tried. Against Dewey, Braham, Cricket, she fought and finally reached the position that was made for her. The sin of greed. She didn't mind the name, though. It described her perfectly. She got a new mansion, a bunch of maids, a few of the best cloud cars, and a position just after God himself. She was happy with her new position. So she wanted to prove herself, to not lose this position. Sighing at the thoughts, Sumi raised her hand above her head, glancing at the brigade of charging men. She needed to prove herself, but her competition was hard. She didn't have conquerors Haki like Hancock, no powerful fruit like Urge and Riki. She wasn't weak per se, but she was probably the least gifted among the current cis. Yet she earned the position. She didn't have talent on Haki or a strong fruit. Yes, but she did have techniques. Master of Rokushiki, Riki's sword teacher, and finally, Wind-style martial art. An orb of air started to condense on her grasp, slowly growing in size as it became as big as a basketball. After that, blades, shuriken-like blades appeared on each side of the orb, forming a wind-style, raisin shuriken. Sumi streamed her strength on her hand and whipped it down, throwing the ball of destruction towards the incoming horde, cutting the brigade of 21 men at once, splattering blood all over the place. Wind-style is a martial art made from the bits of Fishman karate. It was hard to make, but with a supercomputer on his hands, Amon didn't have to do the hard work. It wasn't perfect yet, but it did its job. A special martial art for his people was what made him unique from the other emperors, and currently, Sumi was the best at it, even better than Amon himself. Sumi took a breath in. All hail Kami. She threw her fist in the air and dashed forward, grabbing her sword and coating it with a sharp wind. She was greedy, yes, but she had a limit. Her god was the limit. As greedy as she was, the thought of climbing higher than this, changing God's position, never crossed her mind. She, after all, grew up with people teaching her to lay her life for God, to fear him and love him. Other than that, how can she, a mere mortal, hope to change his position? Affection, fear, respect, and obedience. Amon was feeling all this coming from Sumi. Ah, how much he loved his cult. They were perfect for everything. Dragging the dead body of Shiki by his collar with one hand, and grabbing his steer wheel head with another, Amon teleported inside the building, above everyone as he observed the fight for a second, before yelling, "Everyone, time's up." Everyone paused. Amon's people paused hearing his order, and Shiki's people paused seeing the beheaded man in Amon's hands. They gulped lightly as their eyes enlarged. Sir. Indigo, who was beaten by Urge and made floor-ridden, yelled, "You bastard! You killed him! You scoundrel!" He tried to get up, tried to launch himself at Amon, but Sumi came and stepped on his head, making him fall face first. "Kami-sama, do I kill him?" Sumi asked softly, smiling ever so slightly, making Amon smile too. "No need. Tie him up. He is a great scientist, he has his uses." Sumi immediately nodded at his suggestion and karate chopped Indigo in his neck, making him go unconscious. Seeing this, every enemy man stiffened in their position. Amon glanced at them. They can be useful, but he needed to do a cleanup. Some of them were very loyal to Shiki. Sensing their current emotional state with his observation Haki, Amon confirmed that around 80% of the people here are forced by Shiki to work for him. The remaining people work for him out of sheer loyalty. Well, killing them won't be tough. Amon dropped Shiki's body on the floor, angering some soldiers, but before they could react, Amon moved. He grabbed his sword and moved at lightning speed, slashing them on their neck and beheading 20% of people that were alive after the fight with Sins. PCCHT. With a high-pitched sound, bodies and bodies started to drop to the ground, their heads separated and blood filling the room, splattering everyone's dresses. The remaining people gasped in fright. Sheathing his sword, Amon looked at their faces. First of all, this wasn't a random kill. I can feel who was loyal and who was not and killed the loyal ones. You guys were forced by him. Amon pointed at Shiki's corpse. Everyone nodded. I know, no need to worry. That's why I let you live. He rose in the air, floating a few meters above everyone. You have two choices. 1. Join me. 2. Leave. I won't kill you if you choose to leave. I don't kill people as long as they're not my enemy. Amon lied. Everyone stiffened, considering if he would really let them go. Amon wasn't completely lying. He didn't need people who would work half-heartedly, people who might betray him. So he wasn't quite with the idea of having everyone here work for him. Though he was confident, many would choose the first option. First of all, He killed their worst enemy, and second, they didn't have a place to go back. Amon smiled amicably. Just a heads up, my people get the best treatment. Because the happier an employee is, the harder they would work. You be treated like nobles, of course, considering you act like one. Meanwhile, Honey Queen was busy whistling in awe, observing the fight that was taking place in front of her. Cling. 3 blades confronted a small knife. Hawkeye Mihawk skillfully blocked all of Zoro's attacks. Damn. Honey Queen was awed. She stood a few meters away in Barite's ship. So this is the world's best swordsman. Can Amon beat this guy? Who am I kidding? That monster would probably one-shot him. Honey Queen sighed. The Straw Hats had come here to recruit a cook, and after a series of coincidences, they confronted the world's best swordsman, Hawkeye Mihawk. Honey Queen was scared shit, grabbing her dial to call him on for any emergency, but luckily, it seemed things were under control. Well, except for the part where Zoro is fighting a life-and-death battle. Honey Queen felt her body cool down. She felt a sense of security realizing Amon can come anytime and one-shot Mihawk, saving her life if Mihawk suddenly went berserk. He would protect her if she gets in the danger zone of people like Mihawk. Probably. Falling on her, but as Hawkeye slashed Zoro's chest, Honey Queen dazed off. But I have to say, this Zoro guy is cool. Chapter 189. Moving forward. I would go. Ace yelled on top of his lungs. He killed one of our brothers. Your son. So why are you still not going after him, Pops? Hearing his arguably rude tone, many of the Whitebeard pirates frowned, but they stayed silent, letting their Pops decide on this. Arg. The living legend, the behemoth, the strongest man alive, simply groaned. Ace. Whitebeard sighed. Teach did a bad thing. I have failed as his father. I haven't gone after him because I am sure I would kill him if I meet him. He looked Ace in the eye. Fine. If you think you can take him on, then go. I won't stop you. Ace smiled. Pops dash. That's enough. Leave, Ace. I don't want to see your face. Whitebeard's tone was stern, heavy, and harsh like a parent disciplining their children. You've decided it yourself, so you have to see an end to it. Don't waste time talking with me. Do what you think is befitting. Don't return before doing so, understood? Ace paused before parting his lips. I dash. He stopped midway. For the first time in his life, Ace felt a lump on his throat that he couldn't just yell out. After gulping hard, he straightened his back. He had decided. He won't let the Kaido scenario repeat itself. He won't sit back and do nothing after someone had killed his close friends. Fool, my friend. I listened to you last time, but I am sorry. I have to take this revenge to fulfill my own promise. Ace steeled his resolve and looked Whitebeard at the eye, nodding lightly before turning around to go to his room, pack the last of his clothes. Ace had quite a few sets of clothes, but he didn't take much with him. This wasn't a vacation. He just grabbed a few short pants and his hat. He didn't like wearing shirts after becoming one of Whitebeard's sons. He wanted to proudly show off his tattooed back, so he didn't take any. Putting the last pair of pants in his bag, just as he pulled the chain upwards, a knock fell on the door. Knock. Ace turned around. He tried to sense who it was but failed. Observation Haki was not that versatile. It could sense people, but it couldn't sense who the people were. At least his version didn't. He heard the Sky Emperor and Charlotte Katakuri could do so pretty easily. Still, he could guess who it was as he sighed. Come in, Perry. The figure of a brown-haired beauty entered the room shortly after, a concerned look on her face. Ace turned around and kept packing his other things, ignoring Perry for minutes. Finally, after a while, Perry parted her lips. Ace, you should dash. Don't beat around the bush. I am not in the mood. And if you're here to stop me, then return. I promised Mr. Fool that I won't go after Kaido until I am strong enough. But this time, I am strong enough. Stronger than Teach at least. Ace blurted, as Perry sighed. She hesitated for a second. Seeing this, Ace wanted to repeat himself, but Perry quickly announced, Ace. You should take me with you. I want to go with you. What? Ace blinked. East Blue, Kokoyashi Village. Arlong hadn't expected this. He knew humans were daring, but he still didn't expect a single man to outright attack his park. Who are you, human? He asked, looking at the blonde man who was being pinned by a fishman, his head down. This man had defeated 10 of his brothers just by kicking them, even going as far as shattering their skulls. A bounty hunter, I presume? He didn't talk much with humans. Normally, he would have just killed this man for what he did, but today, he didn't kill him precisely because of what he did. He kicked his brothers and made them cry in pain. How dare he? So you will die a slow and painful death, human. Arlong decided. Why aren't you talking? Huh? The blond man released a breath, raising his head as Arlong's brows twitched. He was smoking? When did he? You made Nami-san cry, scream your name as she stabbed her tattooed arm with a knife. You disgrace. You don't deserve to be a man. Arlong paused before a chuckle left his lips. Ah, you're that type. Nami did that? I need to make her pay for getting rid of the Arlong tattoo then. The blonde scoffed. In your dreams. Wait for a minute. They would be here soon. My captain will kill you. Oh. Arlong raised an eyebrow. Captain? You are a team, huh? Tell me, why did you come alone? You should have waited and attacked at once. Why are you here by yourself? He waited for an answer, but the blonde simply took a puff. Arlong frowned. Fine. Then be it. He would talk with this captain of his. Nami needed to be taught a lesson this time, and killing her potential saviors would be the best choice. He won't kill Nami. She is too valuable for that. Rather, he plans to meet his idol, Sky Emperor, and present him Nami as a gift. He had realized Nami is too valuable to keep her here with him. She would be a lot of help to his idol, for sure. Her world-class navigation skills and map-creating ability, they are incredible. Who knows, maybe he can even get close to him this way. Arlong laughed as he kicked the blonde's face, throwing the cigarette in the process. He didn't just love women, he respected them. So when he saw Nami stabbing her arm with a knife to remove the tattoo, screaming Arlong's name with hate and disgust, he was pissed. He should have waited for his captain because he was sure Luffy would be pissed and want to help Nami as well. But a part of him couldn't wait. 2 years ago, something big happened. Germa 66 was defeated, captured, and enslaved by the Sky Emperor. He didn't like his family, heck, he even hated them. Considering this, he should have been happy that they were enslaved by the Sky Emperor. But a part of him hated it. A part of him hated the fact that his family, his loving sister, was now a slave to another man. So when he saw that look on Nami's face, her tears falling down her cheeks, he thought, was Reija suffering the same fate? Or was she experiencing worse? Sky Emperor was quite known for his playboy tendencies. Of course, being in East Blue, Sanji didn't know that, not until he started doing his research after Germa was defeated, at least. So it won't be a surprise if Reiju, right now, is on her back, moaning under a fucking man-oar. What irritated him more was the fact that she didn't have had a chance to refuse either. Maybe she was forced to do what he wanted. Sanji sighed. This was the true face of the world. Under the mask of humans, there is a monstrosity. The weak have to submit to the strong. They have to silently do whatever the strong orders. That's something Sanji experienced firsthand, by his own family. Yes, he might be overthinking. Maybe nothing of that sort was even happening, and Amon might only be using their technology, but the thought was still there in his mind. So Sanji had a new enemy, an enemy he knew was out of his league. Still, that wasn't the point. The point was when Nami cried. His sister's face sprung up from her expression as something kicked. Groaning, he ran forward, kicking the gate of the Arlong Park open only to be single-handedly beaten by the blue-skinned monster. Still, Sanji grinned as a voice entered the place. My Sanji, you have got yourself into quite the tight situation, have you not? Sanji chuckled as he agreed. He was pinned to the ground after all. Still, the fact that you care about a female's dignity so much has earned you some of my respect, you pervert. Sanji laughed again as the figure of a blonde beauty entered his sight. She jumped up, vanishing from her spot as she kicked the fishman above him and flung him across the park, throwing him in the water. Sanji smiled. Ah, my queen, you're here finally, and here I was thinking my time was up. The blonde grinned, showing her white teeth. Not in my watch, kid. Time's up for the fishes instead. Under her shining smile, Sanji stood up as he patted his dusty suit. He glanced at Honey's face. Maybe he was in love for real this time? Honey Queen grinned lightly as she brushed her hair and locked eyes with Arlong, making the monster groan. Chapter 190. The Next Step. It's been hours since Shiki's death. Shiki's people had decided if they would stay or leave. Most chose to stay, join the side of an emperor, but a small portion of people decided to leave and start life anew. I didn't have any problems with that. But I smiled. Before you leave, I would like to hold a small banquet to wish you your new life. The people gathered in front of me looked confused, some suspicious even. As it stands, I respect people's will. Since you guys want to leave, I would like to feed you one last time to ascertain that I would never go after you guys. I hope you will wait a while for the food. There was a slight hesitation, but after a while, everyone nodded. Why would they not? They were hungry and tired, and some even believed they would be hunted down, so they needed strength to run from here. And for strength, they needed food. I smiled at this. Then I turned to look at the soldiers from Skypiean, especially the cooks who had arrived at this place a few hours ago, and gave them a nod, implying something. I then turned back around to the crowd and gave them a bright smile. All right then, everyone. Please enjoy yourselves. Walking out of the crowd, I kept humming softly, as a whistle entered my ear. Wow, you bastard. I chuckled hearing the voice and turned around, giving her a grin. What do you mean, Riki? A sore-jawed Riki scoffed at my smile. You plan to poison them, don't you? She leaned on the wall and looked me in the eyes. Or am I wrong? I shrugged at her scoff. Well, yeah, you aren't wrong. I mean, they are my enemy, just from the fact that they are the remnants of my old enemy. I shook my head as Riki raised an eyebrow. But you killed the ones who were loyal to Shiki. So if they're alive, that means they aren't supposed to be loyal, right? Riki asked, genuinely confused. I smiled. They aren't loyal to Shiki, yes, but the anger in them was clear. They were angry that I killed their brother, their sisters, their friends, and their sworn comrades. They were very angry. I added, and if you are asking why I didn't kill them outright since they are really angry with me, it's because every one of the soldiers is angry with me. I can't kill all of them. Now can I? The ones who join me can be molded later, but the ones who left me can't be molded later since they would be out of my grasp. So I need to take precautions where they can't go against me in the future, and that would be by killing them. I continued, but I can't kill them outright either, because if I do, I would seem like a guy who doesn't value his own words. Thus, a bad leader. So I am using a poison that would kill them in a week. Riki blinked at my explanation as realization hit her. Ah, that's fair. Not really fair, but logical. She again went through my explanation in her head and nodded. Yeah, I see no problem in what you did. This caused me to laugh out loud. And what if there was a problem in my judgment? I walked closer to her. What if I wanted to kill them just because it would satisfy my bloodlust? I stood in front of her and pinned her against the wall. What if I wanted to kill them because their face annoys me? I stared at her face as her indifferent expression changed to that one of a PFT-funny one. Bro, you think I would care? Fuck them in the ass for all I care. She locked her eyes with mine before wrapping her arms around me, still maintaining eye contact. I won't even mind if you kill me for fun or for actual reasons. I wouldn't mind at all. Well, I had a guess this would be your answer. As nice as I feel, that's a huge weakness of hers. I have no doubt she would go crazy if I suddenly disappeared one day. Riki, I called her as I hugged her back. Don't do anything stupid, ever. General POV. It's good that it's not falling, or I would have to take action myself. Floating in the air, Amon silently observed the small islands floating in the sky. Merville was pretty huge, and with Shiki dead, it was supposed to fall on the sea like it did in the canon. Yet, it didn't because Amon didn't want to. Island clouds. Amon had too many island clouds to spare. In this world, there are kilometers upon kilometers of island clouds all around the sky, but since only a small part of them is inhabited, Amon can use them as he pleases. To not make the islands of Merville fall, what he did was control the electromagnetic bond of the clouds and moving them here, a few days before the mission started. Currently, all of the small rocky islands were floating above chunks of clouds, even without Shiki's powers. Still, Amon frowned. This is too risky. The clouds won't be able to hold the islands for long. They weigh a lot. I should probably start moving them to the White Sea. Raising his hand, Amon focused on the electromagnetic bond of the clouds, commanding them to move and directed them towards where he wanted. Amon growled, seeing the islands moving ever so slowly. Arg, it would take years. So slow. Wow, the island is moving. Brother must be moving it. Awk. Riki groaned as her face morphed as if she had just bit a lemon. Fuck me, she rubbed her jaw that was hurting badly. Shiki punched her face quite a few times, and her teeth were broken again and again. They have healed, yes, but the pain hasn't vanished fully. In fact, they hurt. Hurt a lot. She went to Amon for this exact reason, to ask where she could find some ice, but he just replied with, "How the fuck would I know?" Riki shook her head softly as she leaned back on the chair, pushing a bag of ice on her sore spot that she had gotten from Tsumi in the end. Sigh. Suddenly, she recalled her conversation with Amon. She knew for a fact she was too much dependent on Amon, but she couldn't bring herself to hate that fact. Amon was her Everything. Father, mother, brother, sister, wife, husband. Everything one can possibly imagine. She could dream of a day where there would not be a Haki, but she couldn't dream of a day where there won't be an Amon. Was this love? Or obsession? Frankly, she didn't know nor wanted to know. Because she didn't care. What mattered most was the fact that she, Haki, was his, living for his use. Was she brainwashed by him, perhaps? Or was she manipulated like Robin and Hancock? After all, this is not how a normal person should think, is this? She realizes that. But she knew that wasn't enough to change anything. She was brainwashed? So what? She liked how things were this way, so there was no need to think of eerie and depressing things. She stared at the air and dozed off for a while, thinking about the meaning of her existence, only for a chuckle to leave her lips as she realized, fuck it, it doesn't matter either way. She would just be by his side until he doesn't want her to. She would just be his shadow until he doesn't want her to. Chapter 191. Inner Peace. Hina perked her ears up, paying complete attention to the Marine officer's words. This is a huge deal. Golden Lion Shiki was one of Pirate King's rivals. Someone who was arrested by the combined power of both Garp and Sengoku, and now the Sky Emperor has supposedly soloed him, even killing him in the process. We have underestimated his threat level, again. Branu, the Marine officer who decides bounties, announced. Everyone in the room, sitting in a row along with Hina, understood what this meant. It was time to increase his bounty again. This is the third time that is going to happen in the past 2 years. Hina could hear the mumbling of the people around her, asking who was the person who delivered this news. Hina knew who did it since she was the person who received the victim. It was one of the people who used to work for Shiki, but was released by Amon to lead a happy life. But instead, he came to the Marines to set a case in Amon's name, supposedly angry from the fact that his wife was killed by him. One of the Marines sitting on a bench in front raised his hand. But sir, his head is already worth 3.9 billion. Increasing it would make his danger level surpass red hair. Branu snapped his finger. You guys are experienced high-ranking officers, so you have a good idea about the true power of the monster that is red-haired Shanks. Unlike how the mass believes, it's not Kaido or Whitebeard who is individually the strongest emperor, it's red-haired Shanks, instead. While everyone nodded, one of the newbies raised his hand. But, sir, if he is that strong, why does he have the second lowest bounty among the emperors? Branu nodded. That's the point. As strong as he isn't that much of a threat to the government since he is a pretty laid-back man. And there is also the fact that he has the smallest crew among all the emperors. That lessens his danger too. But this guy, Amon, doesn't lay back. He grabs what he wants. In the past 2 years, he has expanded his territory throughout most of Paradise and even some parts of New World. His crew even surpasses the Golden Lion Shiki in his prime. Not only that, all of his sins are strong enough to be Emperor Commander level. And there are 6 of them. Branu took a deep breath. He is currently the most threatening force in this world, just after Monkey D. Dragon. Hina sharply nodded in agreement. Monkey D. Dragon doesn't count since he is a mysterious man. There were cases where Marines had discovered his base of operation. But by the time they reached there, not only was he not present there, even the island he was supposed to be on was missing. How the fuck are they supposed to find a man who can supposedly teleport on a large scale? Hina raised her hand and commented, a few days ago, we also discovered his connection with Big Mom. That also increases his danger level. I agree that his bounty needs an upgrade. Hearing Hina's words, everyone around started to whisper. Hina was a newly promoted vice admiral, someone who has proved her worth by a large margin. Her voice weighed a lot, so the Marines started to take her words seriously. Surely, if the rumors were true, Big Mom might let one of her children marry one of Amon's people. That way, their relationship would grow, and they would be an unstoppable force. This alone is enough to push his bounty above the 4 billion mark. After that, it was decided. Amon is going to get an increase in his bounty. Hina smirked in her mind. Mission accomplished, just like her master had asked her for. He sometimes wondered if it would have been better if Haki had Kaido's cloud creation power instead of her light manipulation. But since she doesn't, he has to do all the work. Still, he didn't mind it much. This was considered training too. That's the reason why he didn't just simply cut a door to the door dimension and teleported with the islands at once. It's been 2 days since Amon started to move the islands of Merville towards Skypea. The people who wanted to leave left already, and the people who wanted to stay are here. Meanwhile, after days and nights of hard work, Amon has finally reached his destination. The kingdom of Skypea, the country that has the Golden City as its capital. Amon had dropped the islands on the White Sea, and now they are floating there peacefully. The first thing he did after that was to gather every one of his new soldiers in one place. He looked at the crowd gathered under him as he floated a few meters up in the sky. Everyone, sorry to call you out again. This might not be important for some, but many people are waiting for this announcement. Amon looked at the people. While most looked normal, some had feathers in their arms. They are the locals of Merville. I am aware that some of you are not from the Blue Sea, rather from that small village not far from here. I am also aware that you are eager to see your family. If you are worried about them, don't be. I would ensure their safety. You can meet them and spend time with them. I would ensure no animals attack your families, so rest assured. He continued. Other than that, I also have to appoint your group a leader, which will take a few days, so you guys can take a break for now. Soon, people with wings would come here. Don't be scared of them. They would help build some things. I plan to build better living quarters, many supermarkets, multiple research labs, some schools and hospitals for the people of the village and yourselves. I wish you'd enjoy your time working for me, and if you have any questions, then come meet me anytime. He looked at the impatient and grateful expression of the people below. He slimed, that's all. Now you can go and meet your families. The sky was clear as always, but for the first time in many years, the people below him felt in peace, secure. And he could feel each of those emotions. Isa was done training with Shirley for today. Her teacher had gone back to her room, and she was left with a numb feeling on her head. Using observation Haki to try and predict the far future is hard, very hard. And up until now, she had made no progress at all. Isa's eyebrows twitched as she sensed a crowd entering her range of observation. Her range wasn't something extraordinary, it was her weak point even, but she could still recognize the presence that stood out within the crowd. It was her brother's presence. In no way she wouldn't recognize the voice that screams, I am Theon all the time. Isa tilted her head. Did he bring the fruit that he wants to feed me? In truth, Isa was confused. Why did he want her to become a sin? Isa wasn't dumb enough to believe that Amon didn't know about her small shenanigan with Riki. It would be absurd for him to not notice it. Of course, this question didn't appear out of the blue, as what confused her was the fact that Amon never treated her differently. He still treated her as a loving brother should. Was she wrong about him? Was the anger, sadness, coldness she sensed deep within him just an imagination of her? From the warmth she felt every time she was around him, that might actually be the case. I don't even understand anything anymore. Asia sighed. She sat up from the table and prepared to go to her room. She was already on the top of Giant Jack, so her room wasn't that far, since Amon had always kept her with him. Safe. BZZT. It was at this moment, as a blue light flashed in front of her eyes, and the figure of her older brother appeared in front of her. Yo, guess who's back? With a brilliant smile on his face, Amon grabbed her cheeks and caressed them aggressively, causing her to laugh out. Chapter 192. Isa's Worth. She could feel it. A slight buzz in her cheeks. Her brother must be caressing her cheeks with his hands coated in electricity. She felt her body jolt as she started to laugh, her nervous system failing her. Brother, it tickles. Haha, stop. She somehow grabbed his hands and pushed them away, making him bring upon a sad face. Isa shook her head dismissively. Sigh, you're back. Already? So, what do you want from me? Her older brother didn't answer. He rather slipped his hands in his side bag and took out a devil fruit. I got a gift for you. Oh, what is this? Her brother frowned. Don't act like you don't know. It's the devil fruit you've been looking forward to. She flinched. Oh, you already know. Haha. Sorry, I read Big Sis Riki's thoughts accidentally. I didn't mean to. She made an apologetic face, yet looked at the fruit interestedly. So, is this the float fruit? Are you sure you want to give it to me? Her brother released a sheepish smile. Maybe if you kiss me dash. Amon was interrupted. Forget it. I don't want it anymore. Isa said, making a deadpan face and prepared to turn around, only to be stopped by his hands. All right, fine. Amon sighed. You can have it either way. This is a good power, although you'd need to train hard to make the islands that I brought float. But I believe when you awaken the fruit, you would become Emperor level easily. Isa's eyes widened as she stared at the fruit with expectation. If awakened, you can even reach Emperor level. He pushed the fruit to Isa and she cautiously grabbed it. If not for the fact that Amon wanted the op fruit, he would have eaten the float fruit. It's simply overpowered. It's not simply the power of floating. Rather, it's telekinesis and even matter manipulation to some degree. Everything can be done by this fruit. As long as the user had touched something previously, he would have absolute authority over it. Suppose, after eating the fruit, Isa had touched an island and added it under her authority. In that case, she would be able to shatter the island into dust with just her thoughts alone. Theoretically, she can also touch the ocean, and the sea would be under her control. Of course, in both cases, there is the weakness of range and control, but that can be overcome with time. Other than that, this fruit needs creativity and quick thinking to be used at its full potential. Isa's observation Haki would cover that area. So she was one of the better candidates for this fruit. Amon watched as Isa slowly grabbed the fruit and stared at it for a while. So I just bite it. Amon nodded, as she then gulped. All right, here it goes. Isa brought the fruit closer to her mouth and took a bite. Her face immediately morphed into a sour look. Arg, this tastes bad. Very bad. Amon laughed at her antics while she forcefully gulped the piece and decided to devour the whole fruit at once. Woohoo! This is awesome. Amon stared at the sky where Isa was flying triumphantly. A huge grin plastered on her face as she enjoyed the wind caressing her hair and cheeks. Hey brother, Isa called as Amon locked eyes with her. Why can't I control the wind even though I am technically touching it? Amon tilted his head hearing her. Maybe because they have very little weight and their molecular bond is very weak? I don't know. Why don't you try making an orb of wind using wind style and then try to control it? Might work. Isa nodded at him and did what he said. She raised her palm and concentrated wind style on her palm. Wind style, a martial art the A.I. Seraph had created from the scratches of Fishman karate. Most of Amon's people knew this technique. This was easy to learn, but hard to master. Amon was the current best use of this technique since he can control the electron present within the air and manipulate it at will. After that is Tsumi, but Isa might soon surpass her. As the wind ball appeared in Isa's palm, almost fading as soon as it appeared, Isa touched the ball as she felt it coming under her control. Phew. Releasing a breath, Isa moved her hand, but the air ball didn't disappear, it simply kept floating. Brother, Isa called again. Catch. She threw the ball as Amon caught it with his hands, like a solid ball. Oh, interesting. So you can control the air too, as long as it's dense enough? Good to know. Amon clutched the ball with his hand as it broke and vanished. Now try summoning the orb back. Since it's not like the air just vanished completely, it's still in the atmosphere. After blinking twice, Isa did as he asked as bits of air started appearing in front of her face, soon forming the same ball that Amon had broken. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Amon's face. If she could do all this right now, it's not far-fetched to say that she would reach Emperor level just with this fruit alone after it awakens. But the problem is, Shiki was more than 70 years old, yet he never managed to awaken the fruit. If he did, he wouldn't need to touch things to activate his ability. So that means Isa won't be awakening her fruit anytime soon. But time's not a problem. Amon is experimenting on Or's body, on his strangely long lifespan and his special strength. It won't be that long before he unlocks the gene/lineage of Or's and renders it to be implantable on himself and his 7 sins. If an average fishman are 10x stronger than an average human, then how strong would an average giant or an average Or's be? Only time shall tell. Isa POV. I grabbed the water jar and dipped my hand in the water as I heard a click in my head. I felt a connection being created between me and the water. Taking a calculated breath, I commanded my mind as the water floated out of the jar. Oh my God, this is so awesome. Is this how power feels like? So lovely. Just then, I slowly imagined the figure of my mother, Isa. I visualized her face, her legs, her chest, her waist, her complete body in extreme detail. My observation Haki allows me to do so. Soon, the water morphed into herself, a perfect G version of her that was wearing lavish clothing. My mother wears the best, eats the best, gets the best treatment. She didn't ask for any of that. It's just Brother Amon seemingly loves her that much. Ignoring the thoughts, I changed the figure of my mother back to the ball of water. I then imagined the constitution of a complex handgun, as the water changed again. It took a second since I only recently memorized the constitution of a gun, but it soon formed in the air. After that, with a sheepish grin, I controlled the gun to turn around and meet with Brother Amon's head, as he waved at me. Brother, I called. He looked at me with curiosity. Dodge. Bam. I mentally pulled the trigger as a blue bullet left the gun, very fast, and almost hit Brother. Almost. because a blue energy jumped up from Brother's body and made a half-transparent wall of condensed electricity that blocked and even vaporized the bullet. I humphed. Humph. Showing off your powers even though the bullet would have just gone past your Logia body. He just smiled at my remarks, not looking offended at all. That shield. Brother is strong, stronger than ever. I always wondered why he was so heavily dependent on attacks that were based on his max volt. Electricity has more uses, much more uses. What confuses me more is the fact that Brother Amon always reads books and myths about electricity, so it's not as if he isn't aware of the many uses of electricity, anyway. The good thing is, he is finally focusing on those uses now. Most likely because he has hit another block. When Brother Wiper hit a block, he had awakened his fruit. Would Brother Amon awaken his too? That would be. The thought gave me chills. What in the world would the awakening of Gorogoro no Mi be like? Disastrous. Chapter 193. Ice's Worth. To connect something with me so that I can get authorization over it, I need to touch it. Big Brother said my limit of touch is supposed to be the weight of an object. If not, I should theoretically be able to touch the ground and control the whole planet, which I can't do. So his theory seems to be true. That's why wind style is my best bet. Since the wind doesn't have that much weight to it, I can easily store tons of air under my authorization and cause tornadoes anywhere. The same goes for water, the sea. If I had control over the white sea around us, I would be the bane of every devil fruit user around. So currently, I am here, standing by the edge of the Chandora. I walk down the stairs that are going towards the white sea's edge. Brother Amon is standing beside me, guiding me. I stopped myself from thinking those bad things about him and rather appreciated his help. So, since we have figured out how your ability works on solid objects and liquid stored in a jar, it's time to figure out how it works on liquid that is roaming in the sea, Amon said. How would your weight system work on the sea? I wonder. Try touching the water. Shiki could control water, so you should be able to do the same. I nodded at his words and crouched down, placing my palm on top of the water, activating my power. This time, unlike when I touched the jar of water, I felt a huge weight over my shoulders as a click happened in my head. Immediately, the weight vanished off my shoulder and I felt connected with the water. And since the entirety of the sea weighs a lot, it seems I am connected with as much water as my limit weight is. But that's where the cheat comes into action. I raised my palm in the air as a large chunk of water floated out of the sea, creating a gap that was filled as soon as it was created. Nice. Ignoring my brother's remark, I kept the chunk of water floating. The water weighs at least 100 kilograms, yet I feel no pressure on me. So it seems the pressure only comes when I try to connect with something, not when I maintain the connection. Now about the cheat. I dropped my hands on the sea again as I activated my power. Immediately, a huge weight fell on my shoulder as I felt connected with the water again. I again raised my palm in the air as another large chunk of water followed suit. The two chunks of water got connected with each other as I got authority over 200 kg, liter, of water at once. And since I don't feel any pressure while maintaining already connected objects, I can control the water freely. This is a cheat, indeed. This way, I can get connected with the whole sea. I can't possibly even beat Brother Amon by trapping him in a huge ball of water. This power is... All right, Isa, keep calm. Don't let power consume your head. Amon's sudden words caused her to freeze as she blinked. She looked at the hand on her head, ruffling her hair softly. Ah, yes, you're right. Amon smiled again and said, all right, now I will vaporize the water. Try and see if you can control the vapor/air released from it, since the vapor would essentially come from the water under your authority. While Isa nodded her head, he did just as he said. He raised his hand and shot a plasma L-Thor at the chunk of 200-liter water as it got heated up, releasing steam, immediately turning into gas, hot mist that covered the entirety of Chandora in an instant. Isa frowned as it got hard for her to breathe. She focused on the mist around her that was created from her water, trying to see if she could control it. She slowly raised her hands and clasped them together. Immediately the mist rushed towards her as a massive orb of hot air was formed in front of her. Oh, it works. Brother, look. Isa cheerfully called out, but Amon just scratched his cheeks. Now, try to push the bond of the air particles together and transform it back to water again. Try if you can. Amon ordered as Isa nodded, in a slightly detected face because of his interference at her achievement. After that, she focused as much as she could as a large frown formed on her face. Her breathing got heavier and sweat formed on her forehead. She didn't even blink, and just like that, 3 minutes passed by. She released a breath that she didn't know she was holding and dropped her hands. Brother. I can't. It's practically impossible. No, not really impossible. The correct term would be nigh impossible. I feel I am close to achieving it, but I can't do it. At least not yet. Amon drew his hand towards her hand and patted it, ruffling her hair and smiling at her. It's fine. You are already good to go. Don't push yourself. Isa smiled too. Little compliments worked like a charm. Amon blinked. Oh, yes. What is your fortune-telling thingy going? Any progress? Isa's face suddenly darkened. No progress. Sorry. Again, it's all right. Not everyone learns things on their first try. Take it easy. Amon placed his hand on her head and ruffled her hair. Your observation Haki is your gift, your strongest point. Remember that guy I talked about? Charlotte Katakuri? His observation Haki is strong. Yes, but you have more potential. Don't let small setbacks halt your will. Amon told the truth. Isa can read people's minds from the age of 7. Amon only learned to guess people's thoughts at the age of 14, even though both Amon and Isa had unlocked his observation in their infant days. While Amon trained vigorously, Isa just lived peacefully, yet she is almost about to surpass him. Amon smiled at her face as she smiled back. My previous joke of a mental defense doesn't work on Isa anymore. Because unlike before, she doesn't read the outer thoughts anymore. She directly reads one's mind from the root. The only way I am hiding my secrets is by blocking input and/or scrambling my own neural impulses, thus forming a psychic shield. How it works is simple. Since the brain is made of neurons, and neurons travel by making electrical signals, Amon can create fake electrical signals in his brain and make anyone who tries to read his mind only see the fake lining. At the current level, this can't be called a shield. Even if the name suggests such, it's just a way to bypass mind reading. The past 2 years, he has done less training on increasing his volts, since he already reached another cap after training inside the thunder clouds of Fishman Island. And rather has done more training in creating abilities that he could think of or slash and remembers from different fictional series. The half-transparent shield that blocked Isa's water bullet before was a self-made version of Rakeage armor. It grants pretty impressive defensive capabilities. He created it after realizing his speed won't help him every time. He needed something to higher his defense as well, so he did. But these aren't the only techniques that he has formed. There are a few more dozens of everyday techniques and battle techniques that he has created the past 2 years. He is at his current peak, stronger than ever. Other than that, he has tried awakening his fruit too, simulated his brain to recreate a life and death situation, and many more techniques. But he hasn't been able to awaken his fruit yet. He has one last card up his sleeve, and he was 80% sure it would work like a charm. All right, Isa. Amon suddenly broke the silence. Go call each of the sins. I would need to do a practical presentation on what you're getting into and what type of strength you should look forward to. It's time for a small training session. Amon grinned viciously, fantasizing about how he would test his new techniques on the people who can get hit but not die. Chapter 194, Wingless Valkyrie. He felt anger brewing in his heart. Why did this happen? Bunch of nobodies, a bunch of kids, how did they ruin his paradise? Why? How? It's not that Arlong doesn't fear humans at all. It's just that outside the world government, there isn't any threat to him, or so he believes. So being beaten by a mere pirate wannabe, he felt his pride crumble down. Arlong was shackled inside a cell along with his brothers. The rods that the cell was made of were strong enough for his incredible strength to not work on them. So he couldn't see a way out of this place, not unless he wanted the filthy Marines to shoot his brothers dead. Arlong groaned as he rubbed his bruises. They hurt. As much as his enemy boasted of being made of rubber, his hits hurt like a truck. And that woman, that blonde bitch, he would *p her and feed her to pigs the next time he sees her. Mere humans. Arlong mumbled. I would rise from the ashes, again. The fishmen would dominate you all. Just you wait, I will get out of this dash. It was then when Arlong sensed 2 objects rushing from under the sea. His fishman's senses flared up as he felt a huge danger rush towards the ship. Boom! Soon something hit the ship as it created a huge explosion. The wooden ship cracked up and fire engulfed the whole place, and immediately, a huge part of the cell was broken apart. Arlong saw an opportunity and looked at his brothers. Everyone. He grinned. Jump to the sea. Her name is Marianne, a teenage girl at the age of 16. But fate doesn't care about age, and thus, after becoming a victim of fate, she joined the Wingless Valkyrie and even managed to climb the top rankings. At first, when she joined the organization, she was a laid-back person who always looked out for a chance to relax. But after her boss' harsh training session, she knew this job has to be taken seriously or she would experience something worse than death. Yes, she still looks out for time to relax, but when she is on a mission, she enters her professional persona. Unlike her peers, she doesn't have a devil fruit ability. She has a power called Colors Trap, a special painting skill. This is a powerful ability. This was taught to her by her deceased mother. This is her last treasure. And although she didn't want to use it for crime, she has to. Currently, she is doing exactly that. Marianne was riding a submarine. This is her personal submarine that was given by the Lord of Wingless Valkyrie. She is spying through the camera of the ship, looking at a marine ship that is escorting a few people her boss, Amon, is interested in. The Arlong pirates. They were captured by the Marines 2 days ago after Monkey D. Luffy defeated him. After taking them to a temporary base, they are being moved to a proper marine base right now. Amon has ordered her to free them and bring them to Alsbasta. And she would do it, professionally. First thing first, Marianne mumbled. Let's blow the ship up. With a professional but cold look on her face, she pushed a button on the cockpit of the ship as 2 missiles appeared out of the ship's either side. BRR. After pushing another button, the missiles rushed towards the single marine ship and hit it hard, creating an explosion and destroying more than half of the ship in seconds. Boom. Cannonballs are outdated, missiles for the win. That's what her boss had said, and it seems he was right. Marianne stared at the destruction in front of her with more than slightly awe-filled eyes. Before the explosion could even subside, Marianne noticed some humanoid figures with strange skin colors coming out of a broken part of the ship, jumping out into the sea. Marianne ignored the burning ship and rather focused the camera on the humanoid figures. But before she could completely shift the camera, a silhouette appeared in the monitor. A blue face with a long, blade-like nose, it didn't look anything like a human. Still, Marianne could recognize the scowl he was wearing even with his clearly not humane looks. Was it you who shot the bomb? Strangely, the humanoid figure talked even though he was under the water. What is your goal? Marianne maintained her professional expression and noted the individual. Blue skin, blade-like nose. Fishman, Island of the old Sun Pirates. Her target. She wasn't allowed to kill him, but she was allowed to hurt him, badly. Without wasting a second, Marianne pushed another button on the cockpit as a small part of the floor below her slid open. Water didn't spring out because of the position of the ship, but Arlong quite easily climbed up. At first, when Arlong's eyes landed upon her, noticing that she is a human, the scowl on his face deepened. But it didn't last a second as Marianne touched the wall beside her and a green symbol was painted in a matter of milliseconds. Immediately, Arlong blinked. A calming feeling showered over him. Marianne nodded to herself. Her calming green had worked perfectly. This would control the agitated Fishman to not lose his calm and attack her, losing his limbs in the process. Colors Trap. With this power, Marianne can change a person's personality through the use of certain colors, changing their behavior as she sees fit. It works through the use of a symbol, which she paints either directly onto a person or near them. Once the person is under the spell of Colors Trap, they are unable to break out of it unless the symbol is removed or smeared. The trap overwrites all other actions attempted by the person under its influence, forcing them to do whatever the trap suggests no matter what. This was an overpowered ability from the get-go, but after getting her hands on tattoo fruit, given by her boss, she is able to paint these symbols with just her imagination alone. Unless the person has strong Haki, they won't be able to stay the same under her power's effect. Seeing Arlong calm down, she smiled. Of course, professionally. Welcome, Mr. Arlong. Please refrain from attacking me. I was sent by Sky Emperor, Amon. He is allied with the Fishman Island, as you know. Arlong, still under the effect of calming green, widened his eyes and stared at Marianne's childish face. Chapter 195. I am the strongest. So, can you explain this strange feeling in the air? Riki asked, looking around the massive training hall. Other than herself and the other 5 sins, only Amon and Isa were present there. But what was strange was the drawings all around them. Black, white, red, blue, green, yellow, purple, and rainbow. All these colors were used to paint different symbols on small sheets of paper that were glued to the walls all around the training hall. Riki was curious at what they meant, but she was quite sure the colors are the reason why she was feeling stranger than normal. Amon was standing topless, showing his stacked and rocky muscles. He heard Riki's question and nodded. You don't need to worry about that. Basically, they affect your will and mold it accordingly. Wiper frowned hearing him, but he continued regardless. Currently, they are working to boost your attention and fighting spirit. That's all they're doing, and as for why, you'd soon find out. Riki was still curious as to where he learned to make these symbols, but she didn't pry too much. On the other hand, Amon noted everyone's expression at the revelation that their will is being meddled with. While most didn't care, Wiper had frowned before. But after realizing that it's just his fighting spirit and attention, he also calmed down. This was an advanced application of Marianne's colors trap. He learned it from Marianne herself, which took a generous amount of his time. Though at least he has reached the advanced level. Normally reaching this level would take someone at least 10 years of training, since one has to memorize the effect of every color, along with the mix of each color, and also what 10 of this variant, 5 of that variant, 15 of another variant, and so on, would do when mixed. After entering his top speed, within a slowed-down world, Amon was able to memorize all these in a very short period. Somewhat like a hyperbolic time chamber, but not quite the same. Anyway, Amon smiled at the sins. So, everyone, do you know why I called you? All of them shook their heads. 2 reasons. 1, I'm here to talk about Haki and stuff, Amon said. All of you have a pretty overpowered devil fruit. Except for... He glanced at Sumi. Anyway, the point is, devil fruit powers become useless when you're against a master, or even advanced level Haki users. You guys know the basics, but have no idea what advanced and master level Haki can achieve. It applies to my Goro no Mi as well, Amon added. As powerful as my fruit may be, I can't hurt someone who is covered by super high-level armament. And I am talking from experience. He glanced at Riki. Now the best Haki user among you is Hancock and Riki, obviously, since Riki was taught Haki by myself on the moon. Hancock was caught off guard because of the sudden compliment but maintained her indifferent expression. Amon continued. While Riki has achieved advanced armament, she can only use the repulsion force part of it, as she is yet to learn the external projection that is called Raya. Meanwhile, Amon paused. Hancock has both the repulsion and external projection part of the advanced armament. She was taught by the Pirate King's right-hand man. After all, Hancock didn't mean to, but her lips automatically curled upwards. Knowing that she is better Haki than Riki was one thing, but being told that out loud made her proud. Hancock revealed all her secrets to Amon, such as what she went through when she was a slave, what happened after she escaped, and even the part where Rayleigh used to teach her Haki every now and then. The reason why Wiper couldn't code himself in Conqueror's Haki but Hancock could, lay in the fact that she is pretty good at advanced armament already. It was when Wiper opened his mouth. So there are more steps to Haki? Why are you telling this to us now? I am sure it would have helped to know them before. Amon shook his head at that. Not necessarily. While it may seem like advanced should be better than the primary application of Haki, you would need a good enough foundation for it to be true. He continued. Let's take the Boa sisters for example. Those two have weak armament, yet they can use the repulsion part of advanced armament, but that doesn't mean they would be able to beat Virgo, a Marine Vice Admiral who is heavily dependent on primary armament Haki. Generally speaking, advanced armament is better than primary armament, but if your primary armament is weak, the advanced form would be weak too. He continued. Take this, for example. Suppose Wiper's primary armament is 10 and Riki's is 30. So when Wiper uses advanced arm, he would get a 2-time boost at power, meaning he would reach 20, still weaker than Riki, no? In a similar case, when Riki would use her advanced armament, she would get a 2-time boost too, meaning she would reach power level 60, right? So ask yourself, which is better? Everyone was silent for a second. That was a good way to put things. Now it was clearer than water why Amon didn't tell them about advanced applications of Haki before. Since for sure, they would have tried to learn it and waste time that could have been used to increase their base. Of course, even though I did use a 2-times boost as an example, that's just an example. Don't forget that. Something like that doesn't exist in real-life applications. Amon added. So, back to square one. Now can anyone guess why I've called you here? To teach us the advanced form of armament? Wiper was the one to answer. Right. 10 points to Wiper. That's the second reason why I called you guys here. I would teach you all the advanced armament in the roughest way by fighting. While Wiper scoffed, Riki frowned. And how do you want the fight to happen? We can't seriously win against you. Seeing Amon laugh, she growled. Ugh. Amon shook his head and said, either way, at first I didn't want to make this a battle of devil fruits. Since if it was, it would destroy the whole island, which I don't want to happen. But there is a catch. Haki is user-friendly, also user devil fruit friendly. This caused them to get curious, excluding Riki. Suppose, Wiper. He can clad his arms in Haki and then heat it up. Normally, if he can reach, let's say, 2000 degrees Celsius, he would be able to reach more as the armament-clad arm would act as some kind of heat-conductive material and boost it. Amon continued. Same goes with my fruit. I can clad my hands with armament, and it would be a super electricity-conductive material that can't be made by normal means. Amon smirked. But there is a catch. While my own armament would be Amon-friendly, my enemy's armament would be he-friendly. Like Kaido, for example, if he covers himself in armament, he would be able to recreate a Faraday cage, which would send my lightning bolts reflecting away from his body. That's the reason I had lost to him a few years ago. Anyway, the point is, I want you to learn Haki, but also learn to mix Haki with your fruit, so you can use your fruits. After a short silence from everybody, Amon released a fake cough. Ahem, then. Were these please? He slid his hands in his pockets and took out 6 gray-colored rings and threw them to the Sins who caught them. And these are? Sumi asked. Sea stone rings. But unlike the normal sea stones, it wouldn't render you to lose your strength and would rather only block your devil fruit, though not completely. You would only be able to use 10% of your powers. This caused Hancock, who had the most knowledge about the blue sea among the people here, to gasp. Amon continued. I would wear one too, but mine is different. It blocks me from using my fruit power at all. And before you say I am overestimating myself, wait until the end of the match. Amon smirked, causing Riki and Wiper to groan. Meanwhile, Hancock questioned, but how did you get these rings? Is making sea stone with these types of custom rules even possible? Hancock asked as she checked the ring. Indeed, even though she was touching it, she didn't feel her strength depart away. Amon nodded at her. He got the idea after recalling Wano arc. There, Luffy was put on a collar made of sea stone, yet he could exert enough strength to not only use Haki, but even reach the advanced form. That collar was surely sea stone, but a modified one. But as Hancock said, making something like that was hard as fuck. But with a supercomputer that has been strengthened with Germa technology, it wasn't impossible to create. And since he was one of the underworld overlords in his Mr. Fool persona, he didn't have any lack of sea stone. The current Amon is rich. The ownership of Grand Tesoro has been officially changed to Amon's name. He had enough influence on the world to really be called an emperor, unlike before. Many things have happened in the past 2 years. One of those things is Amon's influence even surpassing most of the emperors. Though currently he is more of a famous businessman than an infamous monster. Well, that can be changed after the War of the Best. I wonder how the title of strongest man alive would feel like. Amon laughed coldly as he watched everyone put on the rings. So, is everyone ready? Amon asked as everyone nodded. They had worn the rings that Amon had worn as well. 10% devil fruit power, not enough to be a hindrance in learning advanced Haki. Soon, the Sins surrounded him, but he smirked and cracked his knuckles. Since my little sister is watching. He glanced at a far corner where Isa was sitting with a bag of chips in her hand. I am going to show off a little. Chapter 196, The One Above All. You know, without your devil fruit, you can't win. Our combined power level surpasses yours. My wisdom eyes don't lie. Riki commented as she pulled out her sword. Amon just stayed silent at her remark. Cammy, can't we do this some other way? Yona pleaded. I don't want to hurt you. The others, Sumi, Urge, Wiper, and Hancock stayed silent. Wiper was silent because he knew Amon wasn't dumb enough to challenge them all at once without having a backup plan. And Urge knew his god was unbeatable, so he didn't mind helping him at his test. On the other hand, Hancock knew better to question his judgment. Meanwhile, Sumi had a similar thought to Riki and Yona. She was born to worship the thunder god, but without thunder powers, Amon was nothing but a sealed god, no? Meanwhile, Isa watched all this happening from a corner of the room, sitting on a chair. She was interested in seeing how strong her older brother really was. It was no doubt to her, devil fruit-wise, her brother was the strongest. But how would he fare without his fruit power? She watched as Amon's wings rose in the air. Now that she thought about it, she had heard from Robin and Cricket that he used to use his wings a lot previously. Either way, she took a deep breath and noted the distance between her and the fighters. She should be fine here. If he was actually planning to kill them, his first target would have been the strongest person in the room, Shiki. Her devil is only working on 10% power, but that didn't mean she was 90% weaker than her actual level. Her swordsmanship even surpassed his, as he is more of a sword user, not a swordsman. Locking eyes with Shiki, giving her a cold stare, Amon declared, "I would not waste your time." 5 minutes, that's how long the math would be. Now start. 5 minutes would be too long for this match. Amon might not have his devil fruit powers right now, but he was still one of the fastest characters alive. He could even fight a non-serious Kazara hand-to-hand like Rayleigh, maybe even better. So this would be a quick match. His first target would be the second fastest person in the room. Rising my wings is a distraction. If I want to finish this match first, I better not use my wings. Amon noted. Anyway, immediately, as he had assumed, Sumi and Urge went closer to Shiki to back her up. They had assumed Amon would target her, so backup was needed. Meanwhile, Wiper coated his arms with armament Haki and heated up his arms as if they were made of metal, just like Amon had explained a few minutes ago. With one of his arms burning red, and the other having equipped with a spear, Wiper proceeded to kick the ground fast. Amon noted it as his heavenly step and grinned. As Wiper's body blurred, and he arrived closer to Amon, throwing a punch at his face, he was surprised to see his punch missing Amon's face. He heard a voice from behind him. "It's quite the improvement you've made to Jeppo." "Heavenly steps, huh?" Wiper's eyes enlarged as he sensed a fist coming closer to his ribs. "Though, you should have learned Kami as well." Wiper finally understood how Amon had dodged his attack, but it was too late. Crack. Amon's Conqueror's Haki-coated fist hit the air as if coming into contact with an invisible wall, while a trace of black lightning penetrated Wiper's side, his kidney, as his eyes rolled back. Before Wiper's legs could give up, he clenched his jaws and shoved his spear behind. He couldn't see behind him, so his aim was off. He felt Amon garb the spear with his one hand while using the other one to punch at his other kidney with similar force. Cook. At the fourth hit from Amon's Conqueror-coated attacks, Wiper coughed blood and fell on his face first. Amon simply ignored him and turned around. 8 seconds, 1 out. He simply commented before kicking the ground similar to Wiper. His figure didn't blur, he literally vanished. This time it was Hancock's turn. Hancock could feel Amon coming towards her. Wiper's battle lasted only 8 seconds, and she was almost about to attack Amon with her love beam, but the battle had already ended and she was rendered unable to use her power. Though she doubted if her power would have even worked on Amon or not, since he already has great Haki, along with the fact that she can only use 10% of her power. So instead, feeling Amon's blurred fist coming closer to her fist, she tried coating her own arm in color of Conqueror as well. Unlike Amon's fist, where black lightning was dancing, only a small flicker appeared on Hancock's fist as she tried to clash with Amon. Crack. Another crack sounded out as the two fists connected with each other. Hancock felt a sharp pain in her forearm's bone. She wasn't a puncher, kicking was her specialty, but from the point of Amon's fist, using her legs to block the attack was impossible. Hancock groaned lightly, but she didn't get the time to regain her composure. Amon grabbed her hair tightly and pushed her head down, while at the same time raising his knees to hit her face, and as expected since Hancock was caught off guard, the knee hit her face, her nose, and teeth, as another crack sound sounded out. Her nose was broken, her teeth were shattered. She was still conscious though. Glancing at her tall, bent-over back, Amon raised his elbow and coated the pointy end with Conqueror's Haki. Immediately, he shoved his elbow down as it hit above Hancock's heart. Her breathing stopped as she gasped for air. And with another 2 hit with his elbows, Hancock went unconscious. 7 seconds, 2 out. Amon commented as he watched the horrified expression of Sumi. Wasn't Hancock his lover? How can he be so brutal with her? Meanwhile, noting her as his next target, Amon moved again. This time, his plan didn't go quite right. Sumi was with Urge and Shiki, so she wasn't a lone target like Wiper and Hancock. Amon had followed the same plan as striking Sumi's stomach with his Conqueror's Haki-coated attack, but unlike before, the attack was stopped. A sword appeared in front of his fist and stopped it from advancing. That was easier than I had expected. Amon heard Shiki's voice, who had used one of her swords to block his attack. He immediately raised his hand for an attack but stopped midway. Urge. He looked behind Shiki where Urge was prepared to reflect his attack. Well, modern problems require modern solutions. Amon changed his stance as illusionary fins appeared in his palm. Fishman Karate, Heart of Depth. A huge ball of water formed in front of the three, and before they would understand anything, water rushed towards their faces. Riki got an immediate idea of what was going to happen, so she immediately blocked her nose with her fingers. But Yurij and Sumi weren't so lucky. Water entered their noses and invaded their lungs. Normally, this much water wouldn't be enough to render them unable to use their fruits, but since they were already weakened by the ring, Yurij couldn't use his power to send the water back to Amon. Both started coughing out water, as Riki was caught off guard for a second. She has seen Jinbei use Fishman Karate, and she herself has used it to fight. But she never thought of using it this way. This was surely all devil fruit users' bane. Still, she regained her composure and prepared to rush towards Amon. But Amon moved first. He blurred and slapped her forearms, causing her to drop the swords to the ground. Amon then swung his fist backwards and landed a punch on her cheeks, causing her body to skip up because of the recoil. Ugh! Riki groaned. But Amon didn't stop. He swung his fist backwards and covered it with Conqueror's Haki this time, then shoved it forward, landing it on Riki's stomach as she gasped and coughed out saliva. Bastard! Riki cursed, but Amon didn't stop there. He realized even hitting her with Conqueror's Haki is not enough, so he needed to play dirty. Sorry. Didn't want to do this to you at least. Amon suddenly said as he drew his leg backwards. The next moment, black lightning flickered on his kneecap as he shoved it forward, right at Riki's crotch. Bam. Motherfucker. Amon didn't stop there. He grabbed her hair and slammed her head on the wall beside and kicked her in the crotch again and again. The next second, he let her go as she sloppily fell on the floor. She wasn't unconscious like Hancock and Wiper, but she was surely unable to move. Amon then looked at the floor where Yurij and Sumi were on their knees, busy coughing out water. She raised her leg and covered it in armament along with Conqueror's Haki. He then kicked down on their heads as a slight crack sounded out. Tempest kick. Then, he cracked his neck. 16 seconds. Kinda slow. It was then when his senses picked up something and he turned around, a smile on his face. And Yona? He asked gently towards the last person standing. Yona had dark shadowy marks around her body, looking more taller and even a little muscular than normal. She had only 10% power of her fruit, which she used to summon the shadows from the new thriller bark and merge with them. Yona would never fight Amon, even if he ordered her as her god. But using the symbols on the walls, he had manipulated Yona's personality. He lied to Wiper. Do you want to forfeit? Amon asked simply a moment after, to which Yona nodded as her body went back to normal. I am sorry for underestimating you, my Cammy, she remarked with a conflicted look on her face, to which Amon chuckled. He looked around the room and made eye contact with Isa, whose whole body was trembling. Isa, 31 seconds. Mark it. We would compare it after a week's worth of training. He simply smiled and turned around to meet Riki. Then Yona, can you take my precious sister to the medic room? Oh, if Chopper asks why she is injured in her crotch, don't say I did it, or he would annoy me the whole day. Riki, with tears gushing out of her eyes, her face bloody, simply glared at him from the ground, unable to move. Bastard, watch out when you sleep. I will get back for this. Amon laughed and shook his head amusingly. He pulled out his ring and teleported from there and went to buy some Aftermath mango juice. He was quite proud of his sins. Kaido's Thunder Bagura one-shot Gear 4th Luffy, and although he wasn't sure if his blows were Kaido level strong or not, it's still a feat that most of the sins had to be hit multiple times to finally let it go. Chapter 197, Ancient Weapon. A few days later. 1005. 1006. 1007. In her personal gym, Riki was lying on a bench while lifting weights. After the 10th set, she stopped. She was barely able to drop the weighted rod on the carrier above her as she released a breath. My hands are numb. Let's take a break. After about a minute passed, she raised her arms again, seemingly filled with energy. She grabbed the huge barbell and lifted it up with little difficulty. Training is important, no matter how strong your fruit may be. Kaido didn't gain absurd defense in his human form because of his fruit only. The fruit played a part, but his training did too. Kaido has hyper-regeneration. Kaido or Riki was no Marco the Phoenix, but their body healed quicker than everyone else. This way, the moment they destroy their muscle fibers, it repairs itself and gets stronger, so the training they do is multiplied by a large sum. There is also the fact that whenever they are tired or can't train anymore, It's only a matter of minutes before they are fully energized. That way, when Riki first ate her fruit, her physical abilities were enhanced. Same with her adaptability. If previously training a year would have made her 10% stronger, now training for 1 year would make her at least 50% stronger. Though the word strong may be quite misleading here. Either way, a few days ago when the quickest fight of her life had taken place, she was not a generic strong swordsman. She was a Kaido Jr. who specialized in using a sword. She is a fucking tank. No kind of hit would damage her body. Yet that happened. 7 blows in her precious private part had caused her to lose it. Advanced Conqueror's Haki or not, she wasn't expecting to experience that type of pain. Fortunately, she had a healing factor that healed her broken pelvis shortly after. But that didn't mean she wasn't angry. She was a woman. As much as she liked girls, she was still one of them. How could someone be so heartless enough to hit someone else's crotch? She has seen a lot of men complain about getting hit in their balls. They say when a man watches another man getting hit in their balls, the pain spiritually comes to them too. She has seen a lot of men wave off when girls said the same. Girls didn't have balls. How would they feel pain? Those motherfuckers. Riki yelled suddenly as she sped up the lifting tempo. When she was young, she hated men. It's a known fact among the Shandians. But that hate gradually lessened to disliking. But sometimes she felt she should just go to a random island and kill all the men there. This was one of these moments. It would be a lie to say she didn't hate Amon for this. Although the injury healed, it didn't mean she couldn't feel the pain spiritually. You know, I apologized before hitting you. The sudden voice of her brother interrupted her thoughts. After a pause where he noticed his presence in the room for the first time, Riki gritted her teeth while still lifting the barbell. That doesn't signify anything. It does. No. Fuck. Get out. What are you doing in my room anyway? Riki yelled as she threw the heavy barbell at Amon, whose body just flickered and let the object phase through. Well, I was enjoying the view. You don't see a hot girl in a sports bra and pants every day. This was when Riki's body froze as her mind went blank. What? Amon POV. Well, she froze. I didn't lie. Riki is beautiful. She was already enough before, but after the Angel 2.0 on the moon, she reached the top of this world with Hancock and Robin. And while Hancock and Robin are beautiful, she is a special type. Just look at those abs. That silky black hair as she wears those black sports bras and short pants. Those thighs and finally those perky breasts. I guess her training has a big part of her looks too. Most men would die for her. But I pity the men who would actually die. She would probably laugh at their death. Back to the present, I waited as her frozen expression changed and a disapproving look as she sat up. Hey. So you've been peeping on me? Riki said as I deadpanned at her. You horny bastard, you have been molesting my innocent body with those eyes of yours, haven't you? She covered her chest with her arms and looked at me as if I was an incel. Kia. Pervert. PFF. Ha ha ha. I laughed out loud as she frowned. That was cute. But really, you think I will fall for your virgin tactics? Her frown deepened as she groaned. Get out. Now. Or I will call for ISA. How about no? I jumped down from the table and walked closer to her. She didn't even flinch and maintained eye contact with me. Oh, you're approaching me? She smirked. So molesting you with your eyes was not enough? Oh, she is still playing her game, huh? Well, I will humor you. I released a smile. And what if I am? Not like anyone would care if the news gets out that Amon fucked his sister who has been lusting after him for years. She seemed to freeze again, but this time she regained her composure quickly. Though I didn't let that happen and leaned forward to her, pushing her down on the bench as her eyes went wide. She has slept with some girls on my back. Cheeky little bitch. Well, as if I am the one to talk. I leaned forward to her ears, ignoring her red but indifferent face. Tell me this, whose property are you? Riki didn't answer, seemingly shell-shocked at the sudden development. I bit her ear as she squealed a little. I'm sure you know the answer. I slowly raised my hand on top of her chest and placed it on her blossom. Her body froze again. I am deliberately not reading her mind since it's more fun this way, but I can still tell her to figure out if this is a wet dream or not. I never got so intimate with her before. I didn't need to. I pressed on her chest lightly. But what I said next threw her off. Does it still hurt? This brought her back from her fantasy as heat rushed to her cheeks. Son of a bitch. Get off. Get out of my room. Haha. I got up from above her, not before giving her ear another bite, as I looked down at her. She had covered her face with her hands, but the redness was still clear. I expected the infamous Riki, who was known for seducing tens of girls, to be more than this. So you're still a little girl at heart, huh? I leisurely commented. Today I half expected to cross the line with her. If she said the word, I would have taken her right here, but she didn't. For whatever reason, she won't say she wants to fuck. Well, I am a patient man. Let's see how long she can hold off. Still, the main part of this whole act was to make things up with her. The last thing he wanted was Riki going rogue and leaving him. Then Amon would have to hunt her down. He liked Riki and wanted her to do the same. So maintenance was required every now and then. Hey, Riki, I called. Didn't I say get out? No, listen. This is important. Hearing me, she looked at me from the gap of her eyes. I am moving to Alabasta for a few months. She jumped up and looked at my eyes. What? No. Why? You know Pluton? The ancient weapon. I said. I need to fix it. General POV. Vivi was really happy. Really happy. Her husband is coming to Alabasta, and he is supposed to stay here for months. How awesome is that? Her personal maid, Irene, also her secret stepsister, stood behind her with an indifferent but barely noticeable smile on her face. Calm down, princess. You should maintain a dignified presence for when Lord Amon comes. Yeah, I know. Now shut up, Irene. Vivi said, but there was no annoyance in her voice. She loved Irene and saw her as her best friend. Though I guess I am being too happy. He said he would be busy working on the plot, a scientific project, so he won't have time for me. Vivi corrected herself as Irene shook her head from behind. Irene knew what was happening. Vivi was that careless around her. Sometimes she wondered if Amon was right about it 2 years ago or not. Maybe. She would make a better queen? No, she shouldn't think such things. In the end, Vivi was still her sister. She shouldn't think about eliminating her. A soft sigh escaped her lips that Vivi noticed and turned around to ask about it. But it was then when lightning sparked in the room as the figure of Amon carrying a bag appeared. Yo. Amon dropped the bag on the floor as he spread his arms. How is my beautiful wife doing? After a short pause, Vivi turned around and jumped at his embrace, hugging him back. I thought you'd come from the main gate, but you're in my room. She said, you couldn't wait to meet me, could you? Her husband just hugged her back as her face got buried in his chest. While she wasn't looking, her best friend and her husband waved to each other. Vivi, you look good in this dress, Amon said. Unfortunately, there is another person in the room, or things would have gotten wild. He added and chuckled to himself. Either way, we should meet father-in-law now. I need to explain to him some things. Vivi raised her head to catch his eye and smiled. Yeah, let's go. Come on, Irene. Vivi called as she pulled Amon out of the room. Chapter 198. Mass Destruction. Past. Everything was fuzzy and a thick fog was covering the area. Blood. Blood was dripping on the sea from the sky where a giant man wearing an equally giant straw hat walked on the air by stepping onto blue half-transparent blocks. He was injured, a fist-sized hole was in his chest, yet he walked unfazed. Meanwhile, on his shoulder, a green-haired young boy sat. The boy looked no more than 10, and he had his hands pointing forward as more and more blue blocks appeared where the giant stepped on. Hey, Cap. The young boy called in a solemn tone, still, his hands raised and his eyes locked forward. The giant, who he called Captain, didn't answer, but the boy knew he was listening. What will happen after this? The giant stopped on his steps. He paused for a moment before looking at the sky. With a strange but charismatic smile on his face, he chuckled softly. Hey, it will be fine. We failed, but the next generation will succeed. After nodding his head, the giant continued walking while more blocks appeared in the air for him to step on. By then, a huge circular gap in the sea was in sight. Water was everywhere. The giant was walking above the sea. Yet the massive hole was there as if nothing. Water was constantly pouring into the hole, but it was not being filled at all. Huh? Can you believe this destruction? The giant asked out loud. He practically erased a part of the planet to oblivion. What a monster. The child on top of his shoulder seemed unfazed by it. Well, yeah, but don't you think we should hurry up? The crew is fighting that exact monster you're talking about. They won't be able to hold him off for long, Cap? The straw hat-wearing giant chuckled at this, but still nodded. You're right. He released a breath as he noticed his wound acting up. This is the last seal. The first one was above Mariewa, that man's home, and the second one was God's Valley. Now, this should be the last place. The plan is to put 3 seals in a straight line, 2 supportive ones and 1 main, which would be the one to hold the beast inside. One seal is in paradise, another above the red line on Mariewa, and the last is in the New World. They would be used to seal that monster, Emu, in Mariewa. At first, the giant wanted to just put one seal on Mariewa, but he realized gathering the keys of the seal, the ancient weapons, at that place would be quite easy and the seal would be taken off quite soon. So he decided to put 3 different seals in 3 different places where the ancient weapons would be used as keys to undo the seal. This way, it would be hard for anyone to free Ema, since if they want to release Ema so that he can wreak havoc in the world again, the ancient weapons won't agree. But if a wielder of D wants to free Emu for the last battle between them, then the ancient weapons would agree and the battle would take place. Though the giant man only hoped that the next fight wouldn't be won by Emu again. The giant man, Joy Boy, walked on the transparent plates made by the son of one of his crew members as he reached below the empty hole in the sea. Under the gap, a beautiful island the size of a big city was floating above the water that was being poured from the sea above. This island is the remnant of the Great Kingdom, or what Joy Boy likes to call Laugh Tale. He had brought this island here just before he fought Emu. The mermaid princess had foreseen the future where they would lose, so he had taken preparations in case her predictions had come true this time too. As it is his home that he had built with his blood and sweat, he wished for it to stay safe from destruction. So he chose to keep this island hidden under the seal. He then turned his eyes to the child on his shoulder. "So, Bart, are you ready to go into action?" The child with green hair nodded. "Yes, Captain." The process wasn't hard. Bart had to run around the island and surround it with his barrier that he can make with his barrier fruit. The plan is, Bart would create 3 barriers, 2 that he already did in God's Valley and Mariewa, and the third one was here. The barrier's power supply would be the one of here in God's Valley, while the main place where the barrier would be the strongest would be Mariewa. These are permanent barriers. There is no way to break them. There is only one way to undo them each. In God's Valley, the barrier is hidden underground, so people would still be able to access the surface of it. And to undo the barrier, they would need Poseidon to undo it via special means. The one in Mariewa is special too. There is an empty field there. Bart had to put a barrier around that field, where the crewmates of Joy Boy was fighting Emu. One would need to use Pluton as the key if they want to break that seal, but even then, the other 2 seals that are supporting the main seal would not allow it to undo itself. And this is the third, the laugh tail that is hidden under the gap in the sea. Uranus is needed to unlock this seal. And while the seals in God Valley and Gap in the Sea can be unlocked via one ancient weapon, to unlock the seal in Mariewa, one would need all the ancient weapons and undo all seals. Normally, creating indestructible barriers isn't possible even with the barrier fruit. Bart's barrier works this way. As long as he has stamina left, the barrier would be indestructible. However, if a person with enough power keeps hitting the barrier again and again, his stamina consumption would rise and soon he would lose consciousness. Even then, if he somehow managed to gain unlimited stamina, the barrier would still vanish after he would die. So that's a problem since his captain seemed to be sure that the next Joy Boy won't be appearing before Bart's death. So he made Bart create a special type of barrier that can store energy like a battery and would use the energy to keep the barrier active. As for who had enough energy to be used as a battery for possibly a few hundred years, that's where Joy Boy himself came into play. "Captain, I still think it's better for you to just travel to the future with Toki and then settle scores with Emu. This is a waste of time." Joy Boy ignored the child and touched the blue barrier that covered the whole island from all sides. Currently, because of the barrier, the island has become hidden under the water that is being poured down, so from above there, nothing can identify that something is under the hole in the sea. Joy Boy looked at Bart and beamed at him. "I have already decided, Bart. Though when will you leave? I think this is the best time." The child snorted. "No need to worry about that. I can just cover myself in a ball of barrier and jump in the sea. I would be automatically bounced upwards because of the water pressure." He answered as the straw hat-wearing giant laughed. "Haha, smart kid." He looked at him with adoring eyes. "Ahem, either way, I am gonna start." Saying this, Joy Boy touched the barrier as purple energy jumped up from his hand. "Oh, I can feel the sucking force. It's working." Currently, his Haki was traveling through the barrier and strengthening it, also traveling through the wireless thread between the 3 barriers and straightening them too. Joy Boy maintained his smile as he took off his hat with his other hand and pushed it on the child's head that covered his whole body. "Keep that as a gift." The boy peeked out of the hat with a deadpan look on his face. What would I do with this giantess hat? This caused Joy Boy to blink. "Ah, yes, you can't wear it." How silly of me. He tilted his head for a second before smiling. Wait, I remember Jasmine making a small hat from the loosened straws of my hat. He reached out for his pocket as a very small hat, at least compared to his hands, came out. He then pushed the hat down on Bart's head. Well, now it's good. After doing so, he again grabbed the giant hat and put it above the child's head, covering his sight in the darkness. He said, "Don't come outside. I am sure you won't like the scene you'd see. And by the way, keep this hat as a gift too, okay?" There was only a silent yes from under the hat as Joy Boy stopped laughing. He looked at his hand, his fingers that were slowly becoming sickening to look at, the skin drying and bones slowly becoming clearer. Also, Bart, Joy Boy's voice was heavy. Tell everyone from the crew to put a D in the middle of their children's names. I am sure they know what the D means. Another silent yes came from under the hat. This time, the voice was quivering. This was the moment when the fuzzy and foggy view became fuzzier, foggier. As a huge breath filled his lungs, Luffy jumped up from his bed. Huh. He took a deep breath as he looked around with wide eyes. What was that? Immediately the door of his room opened as a blonde woman appeared inside, a worried look on her face. Captain, is everything all right? Ah. I think I just had a nightmare. Luffy blinked. Hiya, but I can't even remember what it was about. Luffy stretched his arms and shook his head. He thought he had had this dream before too, but he couldn't remember at all what the dream was about. I think it was about Boy Joy, Luffy said as he shrugged. Anyway, I'm hungry. Luffy jumped from his bed. Sanji, I want meat. He was about to run past Honey Queen, but he noticed the bounty poster in her hand. Eh? Whose poster is that? Oh, you're interested? Honey Queen said. You know the recent Emperor of the Sea, the Sky Emperor? This had caused Nami and Sanji, who was sitting on the deck, to perk their ears up. He got a bounty increase. Luffy hummed hearing her. What Honey Queen said caused him to freeze. It's 4.2 billion bellies, above red-haired Shanks. It wasn't only Luffy as even Nami, Sanji, Usopp, and even Zoro froze. They haven't even heard of such a big number before now. What type of monster has that type of bounty? Luffy's mind already forgot about the nightmare, and rather focused on something else. What did you say his name was? Sky King, or whatever? Chapter 199, Ancient Weapon. Cling. Clang. In Alabasta, 320 meters under the royal palace, an underground chamber existed. Currently, hundreds of people wearing lab coats along with thousands of people with collars around their necks, clearly slaves, were working on a huge clump of metal. The slaves were hammering different parts of the metal chunk, so the whole place was filled with sounds of metal clattering each other. Though calling it a metal chunk wouldn't be quite right, as it was a futuristic machine in the form of a giant earthworm. Around the pointy head of the earthworm, Vivi and Amon were standing side by side. Amon POV. We are currently underground, under Alabasta. Remember the poneglyph in Alabasta and how it was under the ground? Turns out there is another floor under that floor a few hundred meters below. How did I find this? The poneglyph above had the information written on it that Robin read for me. It seems she lied to Crocodile and Cannon. Smart girl. Either way, in this floor, Pluton, the literal ancient weapon, is present. I had theorized a lot about what Pluton and Uranus are, and while I still don't know what the latter is, the first one is pretty clear to me. A giant mechanical earthworm? Yeah, I didn't expect this when I found it 2 years ago. And why is this so big? I looked ahead. My eyes were slightly awestruck. Wow. I can never get enough of this sight. I heard Vivi's voice from my side as I noted she was right. From my point of view, I can only see the head of the earthworm. But with my sensing ability from Garo, I can tell this thing is 3 kilometers big, easily able to take down cities just by rolling around. We weren't alone in this place. Many, by many I mean thousands, of slaves and scientists were working on the metallic body of the ancient weapon while I and Vivi stood a little far. As for why Vivi is here, she is the only one who can operate the thing. Well, other than me. Having electrical powers is absolute when your target is a machine. Yet, honestly, there is no need for her to be here, today at least. Vivi, I called as she turned around with her bright blue eyes. You didn't need to come today. You should have rested, I said as she smiled. No way. I can't just leave my husband alone. That would be inappropriate for a wife. She nudged me and wrapped her arms on my arm. I will go everywhere you go. I kissed her on the forehead briefly and turned to the ancient weapon again. I tried my best to not smack Vivi on the face because of her clingy personality. So I rather started to think of random things. First of all, why am I here? More so, why did I say to Riki that I would stay here for months? The answer to that question is, as much as I don't want to spend time with the seriously clingy Vivi, I need to be here. The ancient weapon is in a bad shape, very much destroyed. Parts of it are missing, and there is no way to fix it. Why? The first problem was, I didn't know how to fix it. I know quite a lot of things because my speed lets me learn anything I want in less than an hour, but that knowledge wasn't enough to make me think of ways where I can fix such a thing as this. So I did what needed to be done, get my hands on the blueprints. Yet after that, I still couldn't progress at all, because the metal the weapon is made out of is the most durable metal known to man. It probably is made of some variation of the poneglyphs. And poneglyphs are made of materials that can't be melted even after I use my plasma attacks. So in that case, attaching normal metals to fix this is not acceptable. It would be destroyed soon if I did that. So what now? That's where Wapple's fruit comes to play. In canon, Wapple had created something called Wapple metal that he created by chewing on different metals and creating a stronger one. Scientists were fascinated by it if I remember correctly. Wapple could eat anything, even things like magma and poison, yet still be fine. So the best way to create a metal that can match the durability of Pluton is to make Wapple eat the poneglyphs and spit them out as moldable materials. So that's what I am doing. Since Wapple is dead and I had his fruit, I gave the fruit to a giant who has a big enough mouth to chew on a whole poneglyph without a problem. Of course, I didn't have a giant subordinate, so I had to buy a slave from Sayobody. People might assume the hardest part was to get the poneglyph, but that's not the case. Apparently, the poneglyph of O'Hara was underwater. As I said, the poneglyphs can't be destroyed, so when the island was destroyed, the thing just submerged to the bottom of the sea. Robin never went to fetch it since she was too scared, so I had to do it. I only got one poneglyph from there, and I have 10 more that I got from different parts of the world. I wonder how the government would react knowing I'm stealing poneglyphs left and right. Anyway, the giant I bought is a slave, so I don't have to treat it like a human. He works all day and night, chewing on normal metals and creating strong metals, and when the metal can't become any stronger, he takes a bite from a poneglyph and chews it along with an already strengthened metal. And thus, Amon metal gets created. Finally, after a few months of work, enough Amon metal has been created to be used to fix the missing parts of Pluton. So here I am. I came here since only I can mold the metal as I please using a bit of electromagnetism manipulation. Follow me, I asked Vivi as she nodded and followed behind me. I walked towards the giant who was munching on metals and spitting them out, his eyes hollow as he kept staring at the ground above. I touched a chunk of metal that he had spat out and controlled myself from feeling disgusted. I slowly streamed electricity on the metal as it started to heat up, slowly becoming red in color. As I said, poneglyph metal can even withstand my plasma attacks, but this is not pure poneglyph metal. It is mixed with different types of other metals, so it is a lot weaker than the actual thing, though it's still way more durable than any other alternatives. Either way, I can now heat it up enough to mold it. Just because I have electricity power doesn't mean I have full control over electromagnetism. I think I need to awaken my fruit for that. So for now, the best I can do is mold the electromagnetic field around the metal and reform it only when it's heated enough. ZHHHH. The metal was now fully heated, and I could see Vivi standing a few steps back because of the heat. The awe was clear in her eyes. The metal then slowly reformed, taking the form of a humanoid being, and soon eyes, nose, mouth, and hairline appeared in the humanoid being's face. Wait. Vivi's voice rang out from behind. Is that me? Well, I chuckled softly as I started forming the torso of the metal. Soon, breasts matching the size of Vivi appeared in the body as I noticed many people looking this way. Vivi's face reddened as she yelled, "Hey, stop. What are you doing? People are watching." I chuckled and again reformed the metal. The metal became almost liquid and fell on the floor as Vivi released a relieved sigh. All right, the teasing aside, this works. The metal is weak enough for me to barely control, but strong enough to match Pluton's durability. I then turned to Vivi. Princess, you should return now. I would work here for at least 10 days straight. After that, I would need you to work with me. So take a break from everything for these 10 days. I want you to be in peak condition when I need you. I said sternly as she nodded. This thing in front of me is not Pluton. Only when the machine would have a descendant of the Nefertiti family inside it, controlling it, would the machine be enough to be called Pluton. So Pluton is not a single thing. It's two things that make a Pluton. And why Vivi? To make this thing function, one needs to use Haki as its power source. But not everybody's Haki would work. Only the Haki of a person of the Nefertiti family can make this machine work. Well, at least for now. It's only a matter of time before I break this restriction. Suddenly, the decision of marrying Vivi wasn't just a politically horny thought. As my loyal wife, she would be a perfect weapon. Nice. Chapter 200, Moki D. Luffy. A few days had passed since Luffy had dreamed of his nightmare. Honey Queen had let Amon know about that because of the words he spoke. Boy joy. Under the moonlit night, Honey Queen rested her hands on the railings of the deck while staring at the incoming island with an unimpressed gaze. So that's Whiskey Peak, huh? She mumbled to herself. Her real boss had started his journey from this island, so this place must be important to him, right? Or maybe not. He didn't seem the type. Or at least she didn't think so. Recently, the crew had escaped Smoker after her captain was grabbed by Buggy the Clown and was almost executed. She was almost about to intervene when she sensed a powerful presence around the island, so she stopped. Monkey D. Dragon. How did he suddenly appear on the island? Honey Queen's observation Haki was pretty strong. She was taught by Amon himself after all. So there was no way to fool it, so the only conclusion was that Dragon had teleported in that area. Sip. Honey Queen took a sip from her glass of orange juice and shrugged. None of my business. Boss would figure it out somehow. Honey Queen stretched her arms. Yun dash. And suddenly she sensed something on the sea, just a few meters ahead of her. She had already sensed the thing before but had mistaken that presence as some fish before, but it seems it was. A human? Really? She looked ahead where a blonde head was moving her hands all around the water but unable to swim. A devil fruit user. No, they won't be able to move so much in the water. So, Honey Queen narrowed her eyes. Why is there a person who can't swim in the Grand Line? What the fuck? She looked back at the empty deck behind her and shook her head. It was nighttime. Everyone was sleeping. But she can't just bring a person on the ship without the captain's permission or she might blow her cover. Normally, she would just ignore this. She has seen a lot of people die and killed some with her own hands, so ignoring this won't be such a huge deal for her. But her boss had ordered her something. If you come into contact with anything strange while with the Straw Hats, grab it. Who knows what type of lucky charm you'd get. So, she took a deep breath and looked at the cabin of the ship. Oi, Captain. A huge boar is running on the water. It looks meaty. Immediately a stretchy fist came banging through the door as a sleepy Luffy came into her sight. Did you say meat? This can't be happening. Sengoku clenched his fist as he listened to the din she kept on the table. I am really sorry, sir. I should have been careful. If not for me getting lost in the talk with my wife, then things would have been, Enough. Sengoku slammed the table. Enough of that. How it happened is not important. Not anymore. I want my daughter back, that's all. You have 3 days. I want to hear her voice by then. If not... His voice darkened. I won't be calm. Kacha. He cut the call and slumped his back. A weak voice left his lips. Hopefully, nothing bad would happen. Alice. His precious daughter has supposedly been kidnapped. She is only 15 years old and doesn't even have any friends. Heck, she can't even swim. She is that careless. She wanted to meet him since it's been 3 years since their last meeting, so he sent a rear admiral to fetch the girl from West Blue. Yet, midway on the road when they stopped near one of Whiskey Peak's islands, the girl was kidnapped by some nobody pirates while the said rear admiral was busy quarreling with his wife on a dindimashi. That's where the problem lies. I should have sent a vice admiral at least. He should have, but he didn't. And now, his precious daughter has been lost. At least the kidnappers most likely didn't know her identity. No, the girl would probably brag that her father is the fleet admiral so that she can escape. She is careless after all. Damn it. If only he wasn't shackled by the government, then he himself would have gone to fetch his daughter. Sigh. I now know why Garp always has a grumpy face. Worrying about his grandson must be tiring. Sengoku said as he leaned back on his chair. Only then did he realize his back was soaked in sweat. Phew. Meanwhile, Amon was clueless as to what was going on. He was still underground in Alabasta, fixing the ancient weapon. It's been 7 days since he started working here, so he was pretty close to fixing the damn thing entirely. Normally fixing this thing would have taken at least 4 years even for him, so he divided the work first. 2 years ago, he made plans using the blueprints on what needs to be fixed. Secondly, the scientists fixed the interior of the machine, the wires, the lights, the power supply, and things that can be done without Amon. Those took most of the time, so he was already at the final stage. Now, according to the blueprints, Amon has to make the destroyed parts of the machine using Amon metal and then put the parts in the perfect place. The latter was easy, but the former needed him to exert great energy that made even him sweat. At first, I wanted to mass-produce this thing for each of my generals and then wreak havoc around the world. But at this rate it is going, that would be highly unlikely. Amon thought. If he really wanted to do that, he would need an actual supply of the metal that the poneglyphs are made of, not this ripoff. Now that I think about it, the easiest part of it all was getting my hands on the damn blueprints. Amon lamented while pushing a metallic plate on a broken part of the machine. Brainwashing Frankie was the easiest thing because even if I failed and he died, I would have just needed to change his brain with a computer and be done with it. Now that he thought about it, Frankie dying wouldn't even have been a problem. Maybe in this timeline Iceberg would have joined them instead? Either way, the point was to groom Luffy. As much as Amon had confidence in himself, there might be some bullshit that even he can't outcome, at least not currently. What if Emo had some fruit like invincible fruit that lets him become invincible with only one type of Haki being able to hurt him, and it's Joy Boy's, Luffy's, Haki? Sounds like bullshit, but Amon was paranoid. As much as this world was real, it's still based on an anime world. Anything can happen. Amon had already decided what he would do. After the War of the Best, he would take at most 1 month to defeat all the emperors, as long as there is no change in the plans. Odin's diary said Emu would only be freed when someone finds the One Piece. But what if the thing that's keeping him locked in Mariehua breaks down before that? Amon has already proved Shirley's predictions aren't absolute. So what guaranteed the previous mermaid princess predictions to be absolute? He always had that feeling of being watched, but that wasn't that apparent before he left for the moon. On the moon, he felt safe. He felt he was out of everyone's view. So what made him feel the opposite on the Earth? He didn't need to use his genius mind to guess the reason. Emu was watching. Always. Even when he had sex. That idiot even observed him when he was shitting. Though not always. Amon sometimes wanted to Elthor the whole Mariehua but decided against it every time. What if that broke the barrier he was sealed in? That would be a stupid way to die. Yes, Amon was confident that Emu would be able to kill him. Haki was bullshit. A weakened Rayleigh could match Kazara. Yeah, Kazara wasn't really Lightspeed, but Emu was also not Rayleigh. The only information on Emu that Amon has is that he is more than 800 years old, so in that case, Emu can even be 10 millennia old. No? Anything is possible, and when someone brings time into these possibilities, things tend to become bullshit. To even guess how strong Emu might be, he would have to compare him with endgame Luffy. Amon had once said rubber isn't OP, but Goma Goma no Mi is not just rubber. It's deep easy level bullshit. By the time Amon had died in his previous life, One Piece was finished, but unfortunately he had already stopped reading the manga after his father's death. Yet, from the leaks on the internet here and there, he knew Luffy's Gear 5 could even stretch the concept of will, thus reaching a simply impossible level of Haki. Unfortunately, he didn't know more than that. So if Luffy has such powers, what stops the main antagonist from having something more broken? In that case, wouldn't it be better to let Luffy, the man fated to battle Emu, to do his job? That's why Amon has kept Luffy alive to begin with. Suddenly, Ark. Fuck, this is why I don't like being alone, Amon said out loud as he began pushing the metal bar with more force. I can't stop thinking about useless things. While the scientists didn't even spare him a glance, seemingly used to it by now, Amon thinned his lips. But I want to finish this baby before the War of the Best. The world shall see what true destruction is, hee. He grinned and punched the sheet of metal hard as a click sound resounded. Done. That's the end of Part 8. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in Part 9. Peace.